Lakeisha Tannehill Tyson, 1644 Shepherd Drive. Usually before people embrace an initiative, there has to be proof. For over 50 years, science and evidence published in the Surgeon General's report record the harmful effects of smoking and secondhand smoke exposure. For over 50 years, it has been proven beyond a doubt that secondhand smoke exposure is a real health threat to those who work in environments where smoking is allowed. 1644 Shepherd Drive. Over 50 years. Usually before people embrace an initiative, there has to be proof. State, for over 50 years, science and evidence published in the Surgeon General's before the hospitality workers of Shreveport record the harmful effects of smoking and secondhand smoke exposure. For over 50 years, it has been proven beyond a doubt that secondhand smoke exposure is a real health threat to those who work in environments where smoking is allowed. 1644 Shepherd Drive, 50 years. A comprehensive other municipalities have in our state for over 50 years. Science and evidence published in the Surgeon General's before the hospitality workers record the harmful effects of smoking and secondhand smoke exposure. To the members of the Shreveport City Council, good afternoon. I am a lifelong resident of Shreveport and reside in District G. Please do the right thing today and make sure that the Shreveport smoke-free ordinance is comprehensive. Shreveport should look like the other 29 municipalities in Louisiana with comprehensive ordinances. If New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and the other cities can make sure that all of their workers are protected from the dangers of secondhand smoke, we should do no less. All workers deserve to be treated the same and deserve the same protections. Put Shreveport on the map the right way. The citizens are depending on you to put people first. A concerned constituent, Albert Collins. Sharon Pinson, 9207 Green Forest Road. Shreveport should be a place that values the well-being of its residents and a place where everyone receives the same protection against dangerous, cancer-causing chemicals. Every hardworking Shreveport resident deserves to work in an environment that is safe. Please ensure that all workers are protected. This can be achieved by making sure the smoke-free Shreveport ordinance is comprehensive, healthier air for all, healthier air for bar workers, healthier air for casino workers, healthier air for all hospitality workers, healthier air for patrons, healthier air for all. Sincerely, Sharon D. Pinson. Janie Hamilton Phillips, 3990 Titwell Avenue. Comprehensive smoke-free policies that prohibit smoking in all public places, including bars and gaming facilities, improve the health of employees and the general population. For over 50 years, the Surgeon General's report and other credible sources have proven that the harmful effects of smoking and secondhand smoke exposure are a real health threat to those who work in environments where smoking is allowed. Recent reports have also revealed that individuals with pre-existing health conditions who are already a part of disparate populations are at even greater risk when exposed to the ravaging effects of tobacco products. There is no risk-free level of exposure to secondhand smoke. Even brief exposure can be harmful to health. Creating a healthy workplace for all employees free from the effects of smoking is a step in the right direction in creating equity. A total of 29 municipalities, including New Orleans and Baton Rouge, have provided healthier workspaces by enacting a comprehensive smoke-free workplace for their employees. If they can do it, Shreveport can do it too. Shreveport City Council, you can and you should. Sincerely, Janie Hamilton Phillips, registered nurse. Evelyn Townsend, P.O. Box 8434. Members of the Shreveport City Council, today is the day that you can positively impact the lives of hospitality workers forever. There is no risk-free level of exposure to secondhand smoke. Even brief exposure can be harmful to health. Comprehensive smoke-free policies that prohibit smoking in all public spaces, including bars and gaming facilities, improve the health of employees and the general population. Please make working in the hospitality industry safe. People first. A comprehensive smoke-free ordinance would send that message loud and clear. Evelyn Townsend. Glenn Taylor, 1113 Arncliffe Ripplewood, Lot 2. Dear Shreveport City Council, I am writing and concerned about the health and well-being of my family and friends who live in the city of Shreveport. The risk of exposure to secondhand smoke is a fact. This is something that can be a positive impact in the lives of casino and bar workers. Just a small amount of exposure can be harmful to everyone's health. Comprehensive smoke-free policies that prohibit smoking in all public places, including bars and gaming facilities, improve the health of employees and the general population. Please provide a safe workplace for all of our hospitality businesses. We want a comprehensive smoke-free ordinance for the entire city. Putting people's health first is a message that needs to be clear. Thank you for listening, Glenn Taylor. Deborah Smith, 3809 Liaison. Shreveport City Council, I am asking for your support for a comprehensive smoke-free ordinance in the city of Shreveport. This is long overdue for our city. We are always the last when it comes to improving the lives of the citizens of Shreveport. I should not have to breathe in secondhand smoke if I desire to visit one of our hospitality entities here in the city. When you look at New Orleans, we are far behind. Let us rise up and support the health of the people here in this great city. As a council, show the people of the city that you really care by supporting the comprehensive smoke-free ordinance. Judy Williams, 836 Oneonta Street. I support the ban on smoking in the casinos, and I also support reform of the Shreveport Police Department. While there are many good officers in the department, the actions of a few can cast doubt on the leadership of the department. De-escalation, racial sensitivity, diversity, implicit bias training is needed by an external resource, not handled internally by the department. Body cams are needed, stickers won't do it. We need external resources to come in now and help determine reform. Erica Green, 3535 Riley Street. To whom it may concern, I am writing in support of the Smoke-Free Air Act. I co-sponsored the Clean Air Act of 2018 in East Baton Rouge, and it was approved by our city council. I encourage you to do the same. A smoke-free policy sends a clear message that we care about the well-being of our constituents. According to the Surgeon General, there is no safe level of exposure to secondhand smoke. Tobacco use in any setting not only exposes people to the harmful effects of secondhand smoke, but it is also a nuisance and safety concern. Secondhand smoke is the third leading cause of preventable death in the United States, causing approximately 49,000 deaths each year. The harmful effect of secondhand smoke and the fire dangers caused by smoking indoors are simply too great to ignore. A smoke-free policy is a way of protecting the health of everyone. It will provide an environment where we all can breathe easier, literally. Thank you for considering a smoke-free policy. Respectfully, Erica L. Green, Baton Rouge Metro Councilwoman, District 5. Teresa Logan, 1144 Kenneth Avenue. In an ideal world, all places would be accessible to all people. Because of health conditions and my need for oxygen, I have been advised not to spend any time in the presence of smoking, secondhand smoke, thirdhand smoke, vaping, etc. For this reason, visiting our local gaming facilities is not an option for me. While considering my own medical plight, I can only wonder how the exposure to smoking, secondhand smoke, and thirdhand smoke is affecting the workers who are exposed day after day after day, month after month, and year after year. It is estimated non-smokers nationwide who are exposed to secondhand smoke in bars are at greater risk of death from lung cancer and heart disease compared to non-smokers who patronize smoke-free restaurants and bars. There is no risk-free level of exposure to secondhand smoke. Even brief exposure can be harmful to health. Today, on behalf of people like me who would love to enjoy experience gaming, and on behalf of those who would love to work in a safe, smoke-free workplace, please close the gap and pass a comprehensive smoke-free ordinance. No one should have to risk their lives while earning a paycheck. Make today the day. Healthier air for all. Sincerely, Teresa Logan. Tanya Moore, 1515 Poydras. Greetings, Shreveport City Council. I am Tanya Moore, Director of the Louisiana Campaign for Tobacco-Free Living and the Healthier Air for All campaign. Our organization's mission is to implement comprehensive initiatives to prevent and reduce tobacco use and exposure to secondhand smoke and overall reduce tobacco's harm in Louisiana. Over the last 10 years, we have educated every sector of the community, youth, young adults, faith-based and community organizations, businesses, bar workers, owners, casino workers, musicians, public officials, and leaders of the dangers of secondhand smoke exposure and the harmful effects of tobacco use. From there, we have built a coalition and network of supporters who are literally and physically sick and tired of not having adequate protections and a clean air work environment. It is all of our responsibility to help move Shreveport in a healthier direction. We still have a long way to go to close the health disparities gap among our residents. However, we can begin providing safe and healthy work environments to work in. Did you know that in Louisiana, 27% of non-smoking adults are exposed to secondhand smoke at work, and Black residents make up over 50% of that? That is unacceptable. Providing smoke-free environments is a matter of public safety and health. We have a right to protect our workforce. Please support a comprehensive smoke-free Shreveport today. Tanya Moore, Director, Louisiana Campaign for Tobacco-Free Living. Angela Smith, 102 Carey Street, Lafayette, Louisiana. Thank you for your consideration of a comprehensive smoke-free workplace ordinance for the city of Shreveport. In 2007, the Louisiana State Legislature passed a law to prohibit smoking in most workplaces, but excluded bars and gaming. The sentiment then was that now is not the right time. Well, it's been 13 years and bar and gaming workers throughout the state are still waiting for the right time to be treated with the same value as their fellow citizens in other workplaces. Shreveport is the state's largest municipality without a comprehensive smoke-free ordinance, and its citizens don't deserve to hear that they need to wait for a neighboring city's leadership to determine when they're important enough for protections. They're depending on you. Smoke-free cities and states around the country operate with regional competition, and they have all survived turbulent times, including the Great Recession of 2008, unexpected natural disasters, and recent economic ups and downs. Through it all, these these communities maintain their smoke-free laws. Despite outside influences, the time is always right to protect the health of your citizens. As the nation's leading advocacy organization fighting for smoke-free—
Chairwoman.
Was that 3 minutes?
Yes.
Wow. It looks so much shorter than that. Thank you. Amy Quigley, 2823 Alvin Lane. I wish to comment on the smoking ban for bars in Shreveport that will be voted on today. I do not understand why the City Council would choose at this time to ban smoking in Shreveport bars, considering they were just shut down for months and still not open to full capacity. An owner of an establishment should be able to make their own decisions on how they choose to use their property. Most of their business will just go to a casino or over to Bossier instead of spending money in Shreveport. And why do casinos get to continue smoking just because your council realizes that they don't have the votes to ban them? Isn't that unfair to small business? I believe our city needs to spend more time working on crime prevention and on our streets instead of worrying about a small business owner who chooses to do what they choose to do with their own property. There are several non-smoking establishments that bartenders and servers could choose to work at if that is their choice. Thank you for listening, and I hope that the City Council votes against this ban. Stephanie Guillory, 10528 Kinchar Court. I thank you for the opportunity to address the importance of comprehensive smoke-free laws that protect every employee's right to breathe smoke-free air. The American Cancer Society Action Network, the nonprofit, nonpartisan advocacy affiliate of the ACS, advocates for public policies that reduce death and suffering from cancer. The present posture of Resolution 51 falls short of protecting all of the Shreveport hospitality workers and patrons because the original draft prohibits smoking. Original draft prohibits smoking and use of electric smoking devices at bars, but fails to extend the same prohibition to casinos and gaming operations. ACS can support Councilwoman Fuller's proposed amendment to Resolution 51 because adoption of this amendment will provide comprehensive protection to all Shreveport hospitality employees. This includes the employees of casinos, gaming operations, and bars. Comprehensive smoke-free laws are important because tobacco users are not the only ones who breathe the deadly smoke. All the people around them are forced to inhale it too. Secondhand smoke causes nearly 42,000 deaths, including up to 7,300 lung cancer deaths among non-smoking adults each year in the United States. Exposure to secondhand smoke causes many of the same tobacco-related diseases as active smoking, including heart disease, stroke, and cancer. In addition, secondhand smoke increases the risk of sudden infant death syndrome, acute respiratory infections, ear problems, and severe asthma. Multiple Surgeon General's reports have confirmed that the scientific evidence indicates that there is no risk-free level of exposure to secondhand smoke. Recognizing this, 18 states, as well as Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands, have implemented laws that require 100% smoke-free in workspaces and have included restaurants, bars, and gaming facilities in their comprehensive smoke-free laws. It's time for Louisiana to join the list. Smoke-free policies improve workers' health. The evidence shows that implementing smoke-free policies in high-risk settings such as bars, smoke-free policies can lead to reductions of 80 to 90% of secondhand smoke exposure. I'm sorry, I lost my spot. Additional studies examining the, it just hopped on me. Well, that's just rude. The impact of specific smoke-free laws, smoke to quit. Okay, I'm sorry. Can you pause the time and give me a second to regroup myself? Okay.
Yes, I can.
Additional studies examining the impact of specific smoke-free laws had similar findings. Smoke-free laws also prompt many people who smoke to quit. Smoke-free policies reduce long-term risk of lung cancer and cardiovascular disease among workers and patrons alike. Passage of a comprehensive smoke-free law is associated with lower risks of hospitalizations and death from heart attacks, heart disease, strokes, respiratory diseases. American Cancer Society's Action Network address. Okay, sorry. No one should have to choose between their health and their paycheck. Thank you for support of Amendment 1 to Resolution 51. Hillary Frazier, no address. We, the citizens of Shreveport, demand transparency in the way our police force operates. After witnessing the true aftermath of Tommy McLaughlin's arrest and subsequent death, it is obvious that SPD favors reputation over the well-being of the citizens they claim to serve and protect. The useless and laughable use of bumper stickers as a compromise for actual tangible justice and transparency is a slap in the face to those who have been demanding change. If you cannot serve and protect all citizens of Shreveport, then these stickers are rendered meaningless. I oppose this proposal and believe that we need to put our money and efforts toward auditing our police force and removing any individuals who believe that actions witnessed in the Tommy McLaughlin video are appropriate policing tactics. This needs to go beyond an operations audit. Our city needs to act now before another human life is taken by men and women who are supposed to protect us. Approving this proposal is a complete farce, almost as unbelievable as the Shreveport Police Department handing out water on Saturday, chanting with protesters, pretending they weren't covering up a murder. Don't let this be the way our city handles police brutality. Elizabeth Hadwin, 463 Prestonwood Drive. We should follow the best practices of other communities who have successfully implemented a smoking ban. A comprehensive ban is necessary not only as a support to small business owners who would suffer with only a targeted ban, but because the health of casino employees is important as well. A targeted ban is unacceptable. Resolution 63. I am opposed to the resolution as the stickers as in their application cost money we don't have, while serving only as a feel-good measure. Particularly in light of the questions about the in-custody deaths, now is the time for a complete audit of the department, not feel-good stickers. In the last few weeks, we have seen unacceptable attitudes from the SPD trainer and a video of the violent arrest, while questions remain about a second death in custody. If you want us to feel better, the system needs to be examined and reset in a way that prevents harm to the community. Thank you. Jade Kerouac, 2620 West Cadet Drive. I'm opposed to the adoption, it's Resolution 63 and 51. I am opposed to the adoption of this resolution. Stickers do not change police malfeasance, reform does. The city of Shreveport must solicit an independent outside entity to conduct a thorough, detailed review of SPD policies and procedures, as well as an investigation into all past instances of death, severe physical harm. No sitting elected official or SPD personnel should have any involvement in the review or analysis of these incidents, including Chief Ben Raymond. Sorry, I lost my spot. It's like the further we get into this document, the more wonky it's getting on me. I apologize. The independent, okay, sorry. The SPD needs to expedite the investigations into the deaths of Wavy Austin and Tommy McLaughlin, making the findings of their investigations public and fully participating in the DA's request for additional records. We have 2 men dead in police custody within the same month without any resemblance of transparency or accountability, and y'all want to talk about stickers. Unacceptable. Ordinance 51, I fully support this proposed ordinance, providing that gambling facilities are not exempted from the scope of the indoor smoking ban. Sarah Hare, 445 Prospect. Car decals are lip service. If an officer cannot remember to protect and serve from the oaths taken, a decal is not going to help them remember to do their job with public safety in mind. No matter the cost of these proposed decals, those funds could be better spent in more effective and meaningful ways. The resolution states, while Section 11.03 of the Charter of the City of Shreveport places the Chief of Police in direct command of the police department and responsible, with the approval of the mayor, for rules and regulation of the department, it is the opinion of the City Council, the governing authority of the City of Shreveport, that the Shreveport Police Department and its officers should be guardians and protectors for all citizens and communities in Shreveport. Dang it, it did it again. In Shreveport, and policies and procedures and actions should reflect that philosophy. I wholeheartedly agree with this sentiment, but the funds that would be spent on decals would be better spent on an independent, detailed review of SPD policies and procedures, an investigation into all past instances of death or physical harm to anyone in the custody or from interacting with the SPD, reform of the way that the city uses inmate labor and the work team wages they receive, making their wages equal to or greater than minimum wage, so that once those individuals re-enter the public, they will have resources to help them rebuild their lives body cams, and car cameras. Perhaps additional funding could be found in the salary of Officer Brent Mason, who is on paid administrative leave after explaining via social media that he's agreeable to excessive force. On Saturday, I experienced nothing but positive interactions with SPD at the March for Tommy. Was that not genuine empathy and kindness shown on their parts? Do these officers need a decal to remind them to not use excessive force, to not murder, to not maim? Finally, SPD needs to expedite the investigations into the death of Wavy Austin and Tommy McLaughlin, making the findings of these investigations public and fully participating with the DA's request for additional records. Ordinance 51, I fully support this proposed ordinance, providing that gambling facilities are not exempted from the scope of the indoor smoking ban. Lauren Jones, 1738 Captain Shreve Drive. I am completely let down by the SPD based on the information that has surfaced regarding Tommy McLaughlin. It is unacceptable that we, the people, have not heard anything about this non-arrest death of a man in police custody. For me, it poses the question of how many more incidents just like this have been covered up by SPD. If we do not take action to monitor the people who are supposed to be protecting us, we will only ensure that that behavior continues. Until we have more systems in place that are capturing the whole story, how can any of us trust the word of our officers? Therefore, I am requesting the following resolution, 63. I am opposed to the adoption of this resolution. Stickers do not change police malfeasance. Reform does. The city of Shreveport must solicit an independent outside entity to conduct a thorough, detailed review of SPD policies and procedures. Ordinance 51, I fully support this proposed ordinance, providing that gambling facilities are not exempted from the scope of the indoor smoking ban. Brittany Turner, 938 Boulevard Street. Resolution 63. I am opposed to the adoption of this resolution. Stickers do not change police malfeasance. Reform does. The city of Shreveport must solicit an independent outside entity to conduct a thorough, detailed review of all SPD policies and procedures, as well as an investigation into all past instances of death or severe physical harm to any suspect in the custody of or as a result of interaction with SPD, including those who were incarcerated in the city of Shreveport jail at the time of the incident. No standing elected official nor SPD personnel should have any involvement in the review or analysis of these incidents, including Chief Ben Raymond. The independent entity should be reviewed, selected, and confirmed by a majority vote of the City of Shreveport Council. The outcomes of these reviews may be used to formulate a plan for further reforms, reorganization, accountability, and funding for SPD and the jail. Officer Brent Mason, who continues to post inflammatory content on his personal Facebook page as of June 3rd, 2020, while on paid administrative leave, needs to be suspended immediately without pay. And the investigation into his actions, as well as the training he has provided to all active SPD officers, must be conducted immediately, as well as a review of any and all excessive force investigations to which Officer Mason oversaw the investigations and dispositions, and the results of these investigations must be made public. Finally, SPD needs to expedite the investigations into the deaths of Wavy Austin and Tommy McLaughlin, making the findings of these investigations public and fully participating with the DA's request for additional records. We have 2 men dead in police custody within the same month without any semblance of transparency or accountability. And y'all want to talk about stickers. Unacceptable. Ordinance 51, I fully support this proposed ordinance, provided that gambling facilities are not exempted from the scope of the indoor smoking ban. Jamie Wessler, 902 Ratcliffe Street. Ordinances 63 and 51. I'm opposed to Resolution 63, creating a bumper sticker as a means to address police brutality and remind officers who they serve is embarrassing at best. Police officers should, at a baseline, already know that they are responsible for protecting, serving all citizens. I demand a thorough third-party investigation into SPD's police policies and procedures, especially in light of the recent comments and suspension of Brent Mason. Brent Mason has not modeled behavior that I expect of a city official who is responsible for the training of our new cadets and continues to do so following his suspension. It indicates to me a culture of violence and strong arm tactics that likely resulted in the death of Tommy McLaughlin. Stickers aren't a solution. Do better. Regarding Ordinance 51, I voiced my opinion provided that gambling facilities are included as smoke-free facilities. The health of the employees who serve in these establishments is put on the line every day they work. They deserve better. Liz Swain, 262 Wilkinson Street. Council members, I am asking that you please table Ordinance 71. The timing of this ordinance for our small and local businesses struggling to survive could not be worse. I'm sorry, that's incorrect. That's not Liz Swain. That's not her address. Did y'all stop the clock? Okay.
You did.
No address. Okay. All right, I'll pick up where I was. But this is Liz Swain's statement, but that is not her address. It looks like something got discombobulated. Okay. Okay. In downtown Shreveport are small shops, restaurants, coffee shops, bakeries, gifts and art shops, clothing stores, and others that sell goods or merchandise were all mortally injured by COVID-19. We have all seen lists of local businesses closing that I fear will only get longer as time goes on. Many of our downtown business partners are small in terms of square footage and revenue. But these small businesses are the bedrock of our community. They are far more important in the health and well-being of our city than the giant big boxes. They provide more jobs, more cumulative sales tax revenue, more neighborhood support. Some are changing their entire business model simply to keep the doors open. The timing could not be worse for the city to mandate an extensive 1080p digital camera system that covers all entrances and exits, stairways and elevators, points of sale, parking lots, fueling area, and the like. This could easily cost each business at minimum thousands of dollars. To also require 30 days of recording will likely mean that this system will need to be monitored by a security company, which will cost an additional monthly amount. A law of this type does not make sense to me. The timing is terrible. We will be showing businesses a government stick instead of a carrot, and we'll be mandating them to spend private dollars that many do not have. I would ask that you oppose this ordinance as it is currently written and not create an additional burden on businesses that might not survive it. Madison Poche, 262 Wilkinson Street. I'm writing about Tommy McLaughlin's preventable death. We can't bring a father back. However, to honor his life, it is our obligation to ensure our justice and to ensure justice and end unnecessary deaths by Shreveport police. Because the officers involved in Mr. McLaughlin's death were not removed from their duties until a video surfaced to the public, and because Brent Mason was not removed from his duties until his wildly inappropriate public comments surfaced to the public, the Shreveport Police Department and current Civil Service Board have demonstrated that they are not able to self-regulate sufficiently in order to protect and serve. Their current and past actions must be investigated by an independent body. Also, the City Council's actions must match the scale of the tragedies we have seen. We do not need stickers. We need a citizens review board. We need to reform police training. We need body cameras. We need mental health and social services embedded in community safety procedures. We need to create systems that hold police leadership to higher levels of accountability. Also, I encourage every member of the Shreveport City Council to support the amendment for smoke-free bars and casinos. Okay. James Certified, 1505 Abbey Street. I wish to speak about we demand justice for Anthony Childs, Tommy McLaughlin, Wavy Austin. Jasmine Clinton, 2827 Bibb Street. We demand justice for Anthony Childs, Tommy McLaughlin, and Wavy Austin. Alexandra Zapata, 1934 Bayou Drive. Yesterday, KSLA released a video recording in their ongoing coverage of the death of Shreveport resident Tommy McLaughlin. It's horrific. And the suggestion that stickers on police vehicles will somehow make amends for or prevent abuses of power is sickening. We can support law enforcement and still hold them accountable for their behavior. We can, and as an individual, I do demand an outside investigation into use of force by the SPD and bias within the department. We can uphold the work of all the good officers in the SPD, but we cannot gloss over the bad actors within their ranks. We should immediately put an end to paid administrative leave for officers under investigation for acts that blatantly subvert the peace of our city. Demand justice for Tommy McLaughlin and for all of us. Van Lee, 620 Prospect Street, Apartment D. The city of Shreveport faces its own issues with police brutality. Therefore, we the people wish to create policies that encourage accountability within the Shreveport Police Department. Make sure they serve and protect citizens. I can't remember, I think this one, no, okay. To construct and implement a citizens review board that is independent from the police department to handle any investigations of crimes involving law enforcement whenever harmful methods are employed. Harmful methods being any of, but not limited to, police batons, firearms, mace, pepper spray. An audit of the police department held by the aforementioned independent review board to require a prosecutor that neither directly or indirectly works with the Shreveport or Bossier Police Department in any capacity when persecuting crimes involving law enforcement. To create direct quantifiable criteria to determine what it means to be of good moral character for the minimum requirements to become a police officer, to require SPD applicants to test for implicit racial bias, better training practices within the SPD, including programs that occur quarterly and are evaluated for effectiveness every other quarter by both SPD and the aforementioned Citizens Review Board. The requirement of body and dash cams for each officer and their vehicle, the legal fees or settlement fees associated with any future cases involving police brutality or misconduct are to be paid out of the police retirement fund. Prevent racial profiling. Reformation of the cash bail probation fines fee system. The funds allocated to new prison construction should be redirected to the renovation of standing prisons to provide and meet a standard of living suitable to the dignity of the inmates. A rewrite of the qualified immunity law to ensure police officers face punishment once they have been found guilty of a crime. The creation of an implementation of a good neighbor policy, which will create immunity for anyone who saves a human being from, but not limited to, being pummeled, assaulted, and or murdered by the police in accordance with Warren versus DC and the duty to rescue doctrine. To enact and enforce policies of immediate consequence concerning members of law enforcement who engage in unnecessary use of force and fail to protect, serve citizens of the city. to move the day and night time of the city council regular meeting to be more accessible for people, to allow for the city of the Shreveport, for the city to contribute suggestions and comments that affect their own communities. Because the legislative period is closed, we have created a short list of demands for you. And however, over the next few months, they will expound upon them when the window opens for October for the state legislature. Najiri Kamara, no address. To the mayor and city council, with deep pain and despair, I write this letter to you after witnessing a horrible video of officers of the police department beating a man to death. It was a deja vu of what the world witnessed occurring in the death of Mr. George Floyd. This must stop now. I cried all night. On Thursday, June 4th, myself, along with others who have assimilated into the Community Congress for Systemic Justice, met with Chief Ben Raymond and two of his subordinates. Based on the release of the video that the entire community witnessed on the news, as well as what is on social media, Chief Ben Raymond is a liar. He did not tell the truth regarding our questions and the responses that were given. This chief crafted a very slick, sharp, crisp response narrative that is mired in slime, lies, and deceit. I personally have no confidence in him to ensure the safety of all citizens based on the white supremacist racist culture that is pervasive in that department. I further insist to demonstrate that you are not complicit in the culture of white supremacy, that you each write a formal letter on city letterhead to Congressman Mike Johnson, Senator John Kennedy, and Senator Bill Cassidy, imploring them to vote to approve the current Justice and Policing Act, written and moved by the Congressional Black Caucus. My confidence in this government is waning. Elder Najiri Kamara, Pastor, Restoring Broken Lives Outreach. Sandra Mack, 2045 Lanier Street. I wish to speak about the deaths of two men in SPD custody, Mr. Wavy Austin, who died on April 19th, 2020, and Mr. Tommy McLaughlin, who died on April 5th, 2020. And his family hasn't gotten any answers until the video was released on June 8th by KSLA News. As a resident of Shreveport, I'm requesting that the City Council launch an investigation into both of these egregious acts. In light of what is already going on around the world, and for it to happen in Shreveport is appalling. Chief Raymond needs to give the DA whatever info that is missing from the report the SPD turned over to DA James Stewart so he can complete his investigation in order for the families to get some answers to what happened to their loved one. Carrie Jones. No address. Pass a resolution for a complete outside investigation for every in-custody death by Shreveport police in the past 5 years, including Tommy McLaughlin. Shanae Elbert, 326 Kings Highway. Holding the four cops that killed Tommy McLaughlin accountable for what they have done. When will they be prosecuted? This incident doesn't make me feel safe as a citizen of Shreveport. The chief needs to resign and the trainer, Brett Mason, needs to be fired. Katie Bickham, 10605 Medora Court. What happened in Minneapolis was disgusting and heartbreaking, but at least their city named the officer responsible. Their city fired the officers responsible within days. Their city got the autopsy done in days, allowing for a second private autopsy to also be done also within days. Their city is now radically rethinking policing. What happened in Shreveport in April was disgusting and heartbreaking, but it is made more disgusting and heartbreaking because of the response. The story was kept quiet for over a month, and it is only now getting attention because of a civilian video, not police oversight. We have not named the officers responsible. We have not fired the officers responsible. We took 45 days to get an autopsy done, and now that the body is buried, the chances of getting another one, or that one even being useful, or that one even being useful because of the passage of time is low. Instead of radically rethinking policing, we're talking about decorating cars with stickers. It is my understanding that naming and firing the officers is made more complicated because of civil service law. If that is the case, then civil service law is broken. It is protecting the people who should have been protecting Tommy McLaughlin. It is protecting all of the officers who beat, kicked, and tased him while he was on the ground. It is protecting every officer who has ever abused her or his power. We haven't caught them on video yet. Susie James, 1939 Dove Street. 9 months ago, when Ben took office, numerous of Black officers came down to voice their word on how Ben was unfair. To this day, Ben is not doing his officers right, and the morale around the police department is at an all-time low. We are calling the mayor to look at another chief and reform this city. Brian Wilson, 2716 Thayer Street. I come to you as a concerned clergyman and community member, as the pastor of Galilee Baptist Church. I have seen the recent report of Tommy McLaughlin and was appalled of the behavior of the officers. I am more concerned about the timeline in which the incident was brought to light. How does this happen in April and just become public knowledge? How does the family get misinformed and misled about the death of their loved one? There is no excuse for a man or woman's life falling in between the cracks of politics. This is a man's life. I saw myself and my sons in Mr. McLaughlin. Obviously, the issue starts at the top of the police department, and that is the police chief, Ben Raymond. Mr. McLaughlin's family deserves answers. This is a matter of humanity. The police officers are here to protect and serve citizens, offenders and non-offenders. And that is not what I see when I look at that video. We must have police reform in the city. There has to be a more humane way to detain or arrest people. I am respectfully asking you, address this issue as a council, seek justice for Tommy McLaughlin, and hold accountable our police chief concerning the timeline and mishandling of this issue. Sincerely, Brian Wilson, Pastor, Galilee Baptist Church. Cole Loggins, 119 Charles Avenue. In the event where harm is caused to a person in the custody of the police, I want to see full investigations from an outside agency. I want cameras to be mandatory. I want any alteration of hesitancy of releasing any and all footage from said cameras to be an automatic increase in punishment and an assumption of guilt. I want Brent Mason fired. Also, with respect to his training police officers, Mason should be made to cut ties to any active police members for training. And anyone that would seek to be a police officer in the future would have to have a set period of time between their training with him and joining the police force. I want anyone suspended with relation to violence to be unpaid during whatever investigation ensues. It shouldn't be a vacation. Billy Hennessy, 2106 Sandhurst Street. I'm writing you today to urge you as a governing body of the city of Shreveport to take strong, decisive action in the face of pervasive problems with law enforcement. Nationally, conversations abound about the role of police within society and how best to marry that role with citizen safety and protection. While Shreveport is not alone in their need for reform, it does not excuse us as citizens or you as servants of the public interest from taking local action now. In my opinion, stickers and slogans are far off the mark as to be disrespectful. In the video of Tommy McLaughlin's murder, several Shreveport police officers are seen beating a suspect over and over again. I hear arguments made that suggest that had Tommy been more compliant, such extreme measures, I'm sorry, it skipped again. Certain extreme measures would not have been needed. I would argue that anyone being beaten by multiple people at once would take whatever measures they could to protect themselves. More than once, it appeared that Tommy ceased resisting, only to be assaulted as punishment for his previous efforts. It does not seem to me that any number of stickers placed inside, outside, or around patrol cars would have prevented that. Shreveport has the chance to be at the forefront of a new era of responsible policing. But before we can do that, we have got to root out the rot that's overtaken police forces across country by getting rid of it right here in our own backyard. I urge the Shreveport City Council to take strong, decisive action, such as expanding training, required body cams, and every officer, as well as policies and procedures that ensure proper use and the introduction of a citizens review board. Nothing can ever be done to make Shreveport safe for Tommy. All any of us can do is work hard, as hard as we can, in whatever role we possess, to ensure that Shreveport is safe for everyone left, and that's exactly what I'm urging all of you to do. Brooke Toussaint, 1657 1.5 Alma Street. At the height of the investigation into Anthony Child's death and the resultant public outcry for the erasure of many and all municipal codes, ordinances that have served to allow for the disproportionate enforcement of such ordinances on an at-risk community, Councilwoman Lavette Fuller bravely sponsored legislation that affected the removal of the sagging pants ordinance. We continue to applaud this action and would like for the spirit of that action to continue forward. In the spirit of continued reforms towards equality, fairness, and justice, we request that Councilwoman Fuller or any similarly brave and honorable council member examine Shreveport's Code of Ordinances, Section 90-462, walking on or along roadways, to determine its efficacy and to subsequently sponsor legislation to have this ordinance repealed. In common application, this ordinance has served as pretext for law enforcement officers to stop, frisk, question, and perform cursory warrant checks on otherwise harmless and law-abiding citizens of Shreveport. Court records will show that this law has been used on Black citizens over 95% of the time. Simply put, when the residents of Shreveport's more affluent neighborhoods walk or run along the roadway, the act is deemed harmless and is never enforced by law enforcement. However, citizens of poorer communities are criminalized and subject to arrest for the same behavior. As such, it's painfully obvious that this law is, like the sagging pants law, one that specifically targets a very specific demographic. As such, it should be deemed a perversion of law and promptly repealed. Additionally, we request a review of all such ordinances to determine their efficacy and equitable and just application and enforcement. Thank you for your time. Tim Fletcher, no address. I would like to see a board independent of any government agency, that's SPD, SFD, City Council, comprised of Shreveport citizens, utilized to hear, judge complaints against SPD. The meetings of this board should be broadcast to provide complete transparency during the proceedings. Allie Fletcher, no address. As a citizen of Shreveport, I reject the amount of violence shown by police in the video of the beating and tasing of Tommy McLaughlin. And I demand an independent board to investigate not only his death, but the death of Wavy Austin as well. The board should be chosen by the Shreveport City Council and include one or more psychological experts. Both investigations should include hearings with periods of questioning for the police officers involved, their direct superior, the instructors, and first responders that arrived on the scene. Said hearings should be in a public forum and should be aired publicly for all of the community to witness. Shreveport Mayor and City Council should have a period of time to participate in the questioning of, as well as the findings of the investigation should come solely from the independent board. I would like the SPD to explain the following. Why it is acceptable protocol to punch, kick, repeatedly tase, and then neglect the health of an individual in custody. It is assumed to be acceptable because the officers involved remain on active duty for 2 months following the use of such methods. What procedures have officers been instructed to use in situations when they are attempting to contain a difficult, combative, possibly mentally ill citizen? What was the reason for the delay in the reporting the death of Tommy McLaughlin? What is the standard procedure for officers following the death of a citizen in their custody? How soon is a citizen taken to the hospital for injuries after contained by SPD? What type of ongoing mental health maintenance is in place for SPD? What type of new technology is available to more peacefully contain a disruptive citizen? I understand officers are faced with many hardships during the normal workday. We need more effective methods and/or different alternatives to solve problems in our community than dumping so many complex issues on one organization. This is not an isolated incident, so simply firing and solely blaming the 4 officers involved would not solve the problem, but give false sense of security while failed procedures would remain in place. Perhaps we should consider putting in place a peacekeeping organization of counselors and mediators that work in tandem with SPD. Responsibilities could include meeting officers on the scene of situations that have the possibility of being a mental health issue, domestic violence, and/or where a citizen may need to be placed in police custody to offer immediate feedback on the use of force and to assist officers in real time. Duties could also include weekly counseling sessions with officers to assist with mental hardships of policing. Corey Williams, no address. Looking at the protests across America as we as a whole have witnessed corruption, discrimination, murder, in a divided system, we thought Louisiana was doing better until this news was leaked and realized the Black man was needlessly murdered by the people who swore to protect us. How can we trust to protect civilians when some choose to do harm? Where was the punishment of the officers who killed this man? Has Louisiana not learned from Floyd, Brown, Taylor, and all the other Black civilians who were murdered? No, not Black, but American civilians, as Daniel Shaver was also gunned down on his knees following the police's orders. The American people need to be protected, and the cops need to have better training, better judgment, and better restraint. The American people need to understand that being Black is not a crime. Charles Walters, 1638 West Kirby. Against Ordinance 51 proposed by Butcher and Nicholson and amended by Fuller. Many jurisdictions have passed anti-smoking legislation, and to this day, I have yet to see any savings for any state or local jurisdiction in healthcare costs. I have yet to see any proof whatsoever in cost savings or proven life savings. A vast majority of workers who work in bars, taverns are themselves smokers. Due to COVID-19 virus, most businesses are trying to dig out a deep economic hole created by the forced shutdown of their businesses, and now this government entity wants to cut into the pockets of businesses even more at the worst possible time. This will be a guaranteed loss of 20% of sales, 25 to 30% of gaming and novelty income. Not a single area has passed legislation against smoking that has helped increase bar income. Government continues to reach deeper and deeper into private business ownership, now are trying to tell business owners how to run their business with a purely legal situation when it comes to smoking. Employees and customers do have the right to breathe smoke-free air. It's called leave a smoking establishment and go to a non-smoking establishment. It's called go to work for a business that is non-smoking. That is people's rights. It is not government's right to tell business how they must run with regards to legal activities. This is government intrusion at its worst. This is nothing more than feel-good legislation to appease the non-smoking majority while stepping on the fundamental rights of smokers and businesses. I am a non-smoker. However, I believe that the Constitution and the requirement that government stay out of people's lives when it comes to legal activities also allow businesses to make their choice as to whether to be smoking or non-smoking. Stop being the judge and jury and represent all people. For this and many more reasons, I oppose this oppressive legislation. Caitlin Douglas. Because the legislative period is closed, we have created a short list of demands presented to you. However, over the next few months, we plan to expound upon them. When the window opens again in October, we can push for the creation of these policies. The demands include construct and implement a citizens review board that is independent from the police department to handle investigations of crimes involving law enforcement whenever harmful methods are employed. 2, an audit of police department held by the aforementioned independent review board. 3, to require a prosecutor that neither directly or indirectly works with Shreveport or Bossier Police Department in any capacity when prosecuting crimes involving law enforcement. Robert Bilderback, 560 Turkey Trail. Honorable City Council, my name is Robert Bilderback. I write to you all today, a saddened and concerned citizen. I oppose the idea of putting these stickers inside and outside of police cruisers. This is a complete waste of money and adds salt to the wounds of those who have been mistreated by bad officers within law enforcement. I believe the overwhelming majority of those in law enforcement are heroes. However, there are those bad apples that ruin the reputation of the good officers and the valuable work they do. You may have seen the recent video released of the incident involving Tommy McLaughlin. If you have not, I warn you that you will see what you see is disturbing, will likely haunt you in your sleep. If you are not disturbed by what you watched, then please replace Mr. McLaughlin with your own father, then examine how you feel. I have studied the criminal justice system for close to a decade now, both in college and independently, and I must say, what I saw made me sick to my stomach and enraged. I saw a handcuffed man shoved backwards to the ground, unable to break the fall. I saw a handcuffed man punched in the face, unable to block any of the blows for spitting on one of the officers. Now, I agree with most of you. Spitting on an officer is unacceptable behavior. However, there are civilized ways of dealing with this behavior, such as adding an additional charge for battery of a police officer. The media has reported some troubling details around this event and the action that followed. This, along with other instances, have caused many law-abiding citizens to distrust law enforcement, leading to their distrust in the justice system. I ask that you help rebuild a bridge of trust by helping bring any bad actors within law enforcement to justice. To accomplish this goal, I ask that you support some of the following propositions for our city. 1, all on-duty law enforcement officers must have an active and running body camera throughout their shift. 2, anytime there's missing footage that questions key elements of a stop, ticket, arrest, the presumption of innocence will be given to the defendant. 3, all law enforcement officers at the end of their shifts shall upload their video and audio content to an online database. In this database, a defendant or their attorney could type in the summons, case reference number, and watch all related footage. 4, should an officer produce a pattern of producing interfered or corrupted or missing footage at questionable moments, they will be placed under immediate review. 5, a civilian review board shall be created. These boards are to have at least one representative from each major neighborhood elected by the people to ensure the people's voices and concerns are heard. This board will be granted authority to terminate any officer that violates department policy or defies public trust.
Councilwoman.
Thank you. Willie Bradford, 3658 Judson Street. Dear Shreveport City Council members, today we submit this letter in support of a comprehensive smoke-free ordinance. We know all too well the effects of secondhand smoke on our clientele, and many others with compromised immune system suffer greatly when exposed. Cigarettes contain more than 7,000 chemicals. These chemicals can interfere with the immune system, accelerating the disease progress. Because the immune system is not working effectively, smoking weakens the immune system, increasing the risk of infectious diseases, increases the risk of respiratory infections, and a major cause of chronic health conditions and cancer. African Americans and those who are middle to low income workers are disproportionately affected, as they are more likely to be employed in environments that expose them to unhealthy working conditions. Please seize this opportunity to join the ranks of the other 29 municipalities who have adopted comprehensive smoke-free policies, ensuring that all workers have a safe work environment. Workers should not have to choose between their health and a paycheck. Everyone deserves to work in a safe environment, and it is up to you to ensure that this happens. This concludes all requests to speak.
There is one more email in there.
I don't believe you.
Yeah, there are, hold on. Sorry, but there is one more email. It's prior to that one.
Okay.
And that is it. This is the last one.
That's all the public comments?
Nope. They found some more. They found some more.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Laura Bearden, 601 Wesley Avenue. Bumper stickers do not bring change. While I commend Shreveport for wanting to do something, this is not it. A bumper sticker will not quell hate and racism in the heart of a law enforcer officer. See, this is what happens. Law enforcement officer. A bumper sticker will not protect innocent Black lives from hate and racism. A bumper sticker is a proverbial Band-Aid over a gaping wound of injustice. Rather than deciding to take performative action, police reform must take place. Now is the time for an independent audit of our police department. Now is the time to require body cams for all officers. Now is the time for de-escalation training. Now is the time to retrain all our officers on how to, now is the time to train our officers how to do what you propose bumper sticker says, to do what your bumper sticker says, protect all citizens. This training cannot be done by racist officers that dismiss the tragic events of last month. Officers such as Brent Mason cannot move us forward. His Facebook post in response to George Floyd bring all of his trainings into question. His obvious bias is a danger to citizens. He must be removed. Shreveport has the opportunity to lead the way to true reform. We will not get there with a bumper sticker. Jessica Baton, 3215 Knight Street. I believe that Resolution 63 should be opposed. These funds should be allocated towards body and dash cams. We need structural change. Placing a sticker in a vehicle will not make any strides in ending racism within Shreveport. It simply puts a Band-Aid on the issue. Candace Baptiste, 3031 Milam Street, Ordinance 51. As a North Louisiana organizer of the Power Coalition of Equity and Justice, we are committed to ensuring underserved communities are receiving fair treatment. That means making sure legislation such as Ordinance 51, which prohibits smoking in bars, also protects every hospitality worker in Shreveport, including casino workers. We applaud the city council members who see the importance in not making Shreveport residents deal with the unhealthy consequences of secondhand smoke for another year. But we ask you to be fair across the board in this ordinance by providing clean air for our hospitality and casino workers too. Please amend the smoke ordinance to include casinos. No one should have to choose between their health and a paycheck. Thank you. Callie Dean, 614 Linden. I am heartbroken and deeply disturbed by the death of Tommy McLaughlin Jr. However, placing stickers on police vehicles is merely a cosmetic solution to a systemic problem. It would be far more effective to use these funds to invest in trainings for the current police force and additional equipment such as body cameras. I fully support efforts to reevaluate all policies and procedures related to SPD hiring, professional development, investigations of officers involved shootings, and community accountability and transparency. That concludes public comments.
Vice Chairman, a great job. And thank you on behalf of all the council. You did.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
If I may interject, the council, before we started public comments, asked me for an opinion with regard to the parking in yards.
Yes.
I did send the council an email to that effect. However, I would just note for the highlights, more specifically, the city's ordinance does not contemplate yards to include backyards. However, I can see in looking at the language why there would be some confusion in enforcement. I have some ideas about recommendations for change to clarify that, to remove the ambiguity, but we can discuss that at a later date with whichever councilman wants to sponsor that legislation.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, we have heard the public comments, and we have no executive appointment to consider today. And I'd just like to remind the council that voting procedure for Zoom will be as follows. After questions, debate, or comments on the motion, the clerk will call the roll, and each member will vote yes to adopt the motion or no to defeat the motion. There are no items on the consent agenda for introduction or consent items to be adopted. I'm going to ask Ms. Ewing at this time to please proceed to regular agenda legislation.
Resolution 57, selecting the Times as the official journal for the city of Shreveport for the period commencing July 1, 2020 through July 30th, 2021. And I believe Councilman Butcher has spoken to staff about postponing this.
Okay. Well, a motion be in order that, Ms. Ewing, to postpone.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Second by Vice Chair. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilwoman Taylor?
Yes.
Councilwoman Fuller?
Aye.
Councilman Nicholson?
Aye.
Councilman Butcher? Councilman Flory?
Aye.
Councilman Green? Councilman Bowman?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Passes to postpone.
Resolution 58, authorizing the mayor to execute an acceptance act of donation between the city of Shreveport and Fight Family LLC, hereinafter called owner, and acting herein through David Fight, for the water main extension to serve Fight Street and Line Avenue.
So moved.
Second. Discussion. Please call the roll.
Councilwoman Taylor?
Aye.
Councilwoman Fuller?
Aye.
Councilman Nicholson?
Aye.
Councilman Butcher? Councilman Flory?
Aye.
Councilman Green?
Aye.
Councilman Bowman?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Passes.
Resolution 59, authorizing the mayor to execute an acceptance act of donation and permanent utility servitude agreement between the city of Shreveport and Providence Development Company, LLC, hereinafter called owner, and acting herein through David M. Alexander, manager, for the sewer main extension and related facilities to serve Pecan Square Avenue at Providence.
Aye. So moved.
Second.
Second by Councilman Bowen. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Councilwoman Taylor,
Aye.
Councilwoman Fuller,
Aye.
Councilman Nicholson,
Aye.
Councilman Butcher, Councilman Flory,
Aye.
Councilman Green,
Aye.
and Councilman Bowman.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Passes.
Resolution 60, authorizing the mayor to execute an acceptance act of donation and permanent utility servitude agreement between the city of Shreveport and Providence Development Company, LLC, hereinafter called owner, and acting herein through David M. Alexander, manager, for the lift station and sewer force main extension and related facilities to serve the Grove at Garrett Farm and surrounding areas.
So moved.
So moved.
Second by Councilman Green, and motion by Councilman Bowen on that, and the second by Councilman Green. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilwoman Taylor,
Aye.
Councilwoman Fuller,
Aye.
Councilman Nicholson,
Aye.
Councilman Butcher,
What are we voting on? I just got back.
61.
61,
60,
60.
60. Aye.
Councilman Flory,
Aye.
Councilman Green,
Aye.
and Councilman Bowman.
Aye.
Ayes have it. It passes.
Resolution 61, authorizing the mayor to execute an acceptance act of donation and permanent utility servitude between the city of Shreveport and Providence Development Company, LLC, hereinafter called owner, and acting herein through David M. Alexander, manager, for the water and sewer main extension and related facilities to serve the Grow at Garrett Farm Phase 1.
So moved.
Second.
Who second that? Okay, Councilman Bowman. Any discussion? Let's vote.
Councilwoman Taylor,
Aye.
Councilwoman Fuller,
Aye.
Councilman Nicholson,
Aye.
Councilman Butcher,
Aye.
Councilman Flory,
Aye.
Councilman Green,
Aye.
and Councilman Bowman.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Passes.
Resolution 62, authorizing the mayor to execute an acceptance act of donation between the city of Shreveport and Wimwall, LLC, hereinafter called owner, and acting herein through Jonathan Wimberly for the water main extension and related facilities to serve Spring Lake, Office Park, and to otherwise provide with respect thereto.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, second by Councilman Bowman. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Councilwoman Taylor,
Aye.
Councilwoman Fuller,
Aye.
Councilman Nicholson,
Aye.
Councilman Butcher,
Aye.
Councilman Flory,
Aye.
Councilman Green,
Aye.
and Councilman Bowman.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Passes.
Resolution 63, to request the chief of police to place on the inside and outside of all marked police vehicles signs which state to serve and protect all citizens. And Councilman Green has asked me to read this resolution in its entirety. Whereas law enforcement officials play an essential role in our community, and whereas the citizens of Shreveport respect the Shreveport Police Department, but some citizens have increasingly come to believe that some officers view themselves as warriors and enforcers, not guardians and protectors of the citizens in certain communities. And whereas, while Section 11.03 of the Charter of the City of Shreveport places the Chief of Police in direct command of the Police Department and responsible with the approval of the Mayor for rules and regulations of the department, it is the opinion of the City Council, the governing authority of the City of Shreveport, that the Shreveport Police Department and its officers should be guardians and protectors for all citizens and communities in Shreveport, and policies, procedures, and actions should reflect that philosophy. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Shreveport, Louisiana, and due regular and legal session convened, that the Chief of Police is requested to place labels or other appropriate signs on the inside and outside of all marked police units with these words, quote, to serve and protect all citizens, end quote, to raise the consciousness and as a constant reminder of each officer's obligation to every citizen. Be it further resolved that the Chief of Police is also requested to review the rules and regulations of the department, including training instructions, materials, and manuals to ensure that the police department serves as guardians and protectors of all citizens in all communities in Shreveport. Be it further resolved that if any provision or item of this resolution or the application thereof is held invalid, such invalidity shall not affect other provisions, items, or applications of this resolution, which can be given effect without the invalid provisions, items, or applications. And to this end, the provisions of this resolution are hereby declared severable. Be it further resolved that all resolutions or parts thereof in conflict with are hereby repealed.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion, and after a second, I'd like to have a word of expression.
Sure. Okay, motion by Councilman Green.
Second.
Second. I'll second it. The chair would second it.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, first of all, I'd just like to say that, one, the City Council does not overrule the civil service. As we speak, from watching George Floyd's funeral today, congressmen said that they were putting in law provisions about different aspects of the no chokehold and the no knock, and they are taking care of that. As far as a review board, the City Council does not have the authority to bring about a review board. Now, what has happened, it seems as though that this resolution has been basically hijacked by the signs on adding to protect and to serve all citizens. It seems as though most folks didn't understand it was a whole resolution. In this particular resolution, I see it as reform because in it, it has policies, it has procedures, it has philosophies, it has training, it has instruction, it has materials, and it also has manuals. And of course, whereas we can't dictate to the police department as to what to do, but I believe that we can pass this resolution as a start. This is no way and wise a perfect resolution to, garner whatever problems that we have in our city, but it is a start. And I would also like to say to the citizens that whoever come up with another resolution, I would be glad to sponsor it. And then when you talk about the signs to serve and to protect all citizens, then that brings me to the Black community, because it seems as though when police officers drive into the Black community, it appears that the word on the street that they're driving into a war zone, and therefore they take that type of mentality. And so a consciousness that a man thinketh, so is he. I believe if you change your thinking, you change your whole world. It is true that signs don't stop, but there needs to be a consciousness. Guns don't kill, but people do. It's like, for an instance, when you're driving down the street and you come to a crossing, you'll see a red, green, orange. And they bring a consciousness that's when it's red, you stop. When it's green, you go. When it's yellow, you prepare to stop. It all brings a consciousness. I'm not trying to sugarcoat anything, but I just believe that if, in fact, when the police officer saw Alvin Child's pants hanging down, sagging, that if he had just had the consciousness to think before he started shooting his gun, it would have made a difference. If, in fact, when George Floyd, when the police officer put his knee on his neck, if that officer, before they got out of their cars, had an opportunity to think that I got to protect all citizens. And that's what my grandmama had said and is embedded in my life. You cannot treat everybody the same, but you can treat everybody right. And so this is not a perfect, I know a piece of paper, I know a sticker wouldn't, and I'm not talking, the police already have the stickers on there that say protect and serve and protect. This is just an addition that a consciousness would be brought about. But more than this, more than just a sticker, as some folk have said, it's policy, it's procedure, it's philosophy, it's training, it's instructions, it's material, and it's manual. And what I'm asking and what this resolution asks is that the chief of police, the mayor, and all that it encompasses would take another look at these procedures as to how we handle our police department in this city and be a model to say, yes, we change the policies. Yes, we change our procedures. Yes, we change our philosophy. Yes, we change our training, our instructions, our material, and our manuals. And so, Mr. Chair, I'm asking my colleagues to make this as a start of a reform for what we do in our city as far as our police department is concerned. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Any other council member like to speak? Okay. Motion's been made and seconded by the chair. Please call for the vote.
Councilwoman Taylor,
Aye.
Councilwoman Fuller,
No.
Councilman Nicholson,
Aye.
Councilman Butcher,
Aye.
Councilman Fleury,
Aye.
Councilman Green,
Aye.
and Councilman Bowman.
No.
Ayes have it. It passes.
Resolution 64, declaring the intention of the city of Shreveport, state of Louisiana, the issuer to proceed with the issuance of not to exceed $50 million taxable or tax-exempt water and sewer revenue refunding bonds in one or more series, making application to the State Bond Commission for approval.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, second, Councilwoman Taylor. Okay. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Councilman Nicholson.
Mr. Chairman, I would appreciate Ms. Jones providing a brief overview to the public of the purpose of this and the following resolution, which start the process of borrowing $75 million for the purpose of refinancing certain city obligations.
Okay.
Yes, this is legislation that would provide permission for the city to make an application to the State Bond Commission to pursue refinancing $50 million of our water and sewer revenue bonds. So to help with mitigation of the fiscal impact of the global pandemic, the city's now looking across all of our various debt obligations and seeing what opportunities are present for us to be able to save money from a cash flow standpoint. And preliminary analysis is showing that we can refinance bonds. This one is for the water and sewer revenue bonds that are outstanding with the city. The next one on the agenda is for general obligation bonds. And so this will allow the city to be able to work with professionals and to be able to put together a financing package for the State Bond Commission to review as well for us to move forward in pursuing those savings.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. I understand that both this resolution and the following resolution will allow the city to refinance existing debt. We're not adding to our debt load, we're just refinancing part of it. Is that correct?
That's correct. We have debt service that is, due annually. This will give us some relief in the next couple of years to be able to just have some cash flow savings in light of our fiscal situation.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And also like to point out that Mr. Whitehorn brought that as part of the administration's savings at the refinancing bonds. So, okay, we had a motion and a second on this. A motion and a second.
So
I
moved.
motion it. I already made a motion.
Okay,
Yes,
that's what I'm asking. I want to be sure.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Any,
I was the second.
It was motion by Green and second by Councilwoman Taylor.
yes, right. Okay, any discussion? Let's call for the vote.
Councilwoman Taylor,
Aye.
Councilwoman Fuller,
Aye.
Councilman Nicholson,
Aye.
Councilman Butcher,
Aye.
Councilman Flory,
Aye.
Councilman Green,
Aye.
and Councilman Bowman.
Aye.
Ayes have it, passes.
Resolution 65, declaring the intention of the city of Shreveport, state of Louisiana, the issuer to proceed with the issuance of not to exceed $25 million aggregate principal amount of taxable or tax-exempt general obligation refunding bonds in one or more series, making application to the State Bond Commission for approval.
So moved.
Okay. James,
Second.
a second. Okay. Any discussion? Call for the vote.
Councilwoman Taylor,
Aye.
Councilwoman Fuller, Councilman Nicholson,
Aye.
Councilman Butcher,
Aye.
Councilman Flory,
Aye.
Councilman Green,
Aye.
and Councilman Bowman.
Aye.
And the ayes have it, it passes. Ms. Ewan, would you proceed with introductions of resolutions not to be adopted prior to June 23rd of 2020?
Resolution 66, authorizing the mayor to execute a contract for water supply and sewerage disposal between the city of Shreveport, Louisiana, Pratt Paper LLC, Pratt Recycling LA LLC, and BFI Waste Services LLC. Resolution 67, adopting the system survey and compliance questionnaire required by the Legislative Auditor's Office of the State of Louisiana. Resolution 68, authorizing the mayor to accept an in-kind donation worth $16,000 in value from canines of Valor of the city of Shreveport, Louisiana, to be utilized by the Shreveport Police Department. Resolution 69, employing professionals respect to the issuance of the city of Shreveport, state of Louisiana, the issuer of not exceeding $50 million of water and sewer refunding bonds in one or more series on a taxable or tax-exempt basis for the purpose of refunding certain indebtedness of the issuer. Resolution 70, employing professionals with respect to the issuance by the city of Shreveport, state of Louisiana, the issuer of not exceeding $25 million of general obligation refunding bonds in one or more series on a taxable or tax-exempt basis for the purpose of refunding certain indebtedness of the issuer. Resolution 71, authorizing the city of Shreveport, state of Louisiana, the city to hire professionals in conjunction with the issuance of not to exceed $35 million bond anticipation notes, revenue anticipation note, or certificates of indebtedness in one or more series on a taxable or tax-exempt basis of the city. Resolution 72, selecting the Inquisitor as the official journal for the city of Shreveport for the period commencing July 1, 2020 through June 30th, 2021.
I make a motion to introduce these resolutions.
Second.
Second.
Okay. Ms. Ewan, we proceed with the introduction of ordinance not to be adopted prior to June 23rd, 2020.
Ordinance 55, an ordinance amending the 2020 Capital Projects Fund budget. Ordinance 56, amending the 2020 Airport Enterprise Fund budget. Ordinance 57, amending the City of Shreveport, Louisiana 2020 Capital Projects Fund budget. Ordinance 58, amending the City of Shreveport, Louisiana 2020 Gulf Enterprise Fund budget. Ordinance 59, amending the City of Shreveport, Louisiana 2020 Public Works Solid Waste Enterprise Fund budget. Ordinance 60, amending the City of Shreveport, Louisiana 2020 Metropolitan Planning Commission Special Revenue Fund budget. Ordinance 61, amending the City of Shreveport, Louisiana 2020 Community Development Special Revenue Fund budget. Ordinance 62, amending the 2020 Water and Sewerage Enterprise Fund budget. Ordinance 63, amending ordinance number 28 of 2020, which amended the City of Shreveport, Louisiana 2020 Capital Projects Fund budget. Ordinance 64, amending the City of Shreveport, Louisiana 2020 Enterprise Fund budget. Ordinance 65, an ordinance amending the 2020 Street Special Revenue Fund budget. Ordinance 66, amending the 2020 Diversion Program Special Revenue Fund budget. Ordinance 67, amending the 2020 Capital Projects Fund budget, appropriating the funds authorized therein. Ordinance 68, amending the 2020 Riverfront Development Special Revenue Fund budget. Ordinance 69, amending the 2020 General Fund budget. Ordinance 70, authorizing the encroachment into the city's public right-of-way located at Garrett Farms Row, as more fully described herein, and to authorize the mayor or his designee to execute an encroachment permit with the Grove at Garrett Farms Homeowners Association, Inc. Ordinance 71, adding a new section 42-4 in the City of Shreveport, Louisiana Code of Ordinances relative to a requirement for businesses to have digital camera systems.
Is there a motion to introduce these ordinances?
So moved.
Second.
All right, thank you. Ms. Ewing, would you proceed with the ordinances on second reading and final passage?
Yes. We have ordinance 48, amending chapter 30, article 4 of the Code of Ordinances concerning fireworks. And there are two amendments to this ordinance. Amendment 1.
Councilman Green, did I hear you?
I was just going to make a motion on Amendment 1.
Okay.
And I wanted to make a statement, Mr. Chair,
Sure.
after
Sure.
she read it. After she read it, yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Amendment 1 removes the prohibition on the discharge, ignition, and explosion of fireworks in residential districts and instead requires an educational flyer regarding the lawful use of fireworks be provided with each sale.
Council.
So moved, Mr. Chair. Yes.
All
Second.
right. And second by Vice Chair. Councilman
So
Green,
moved
you
on the
recognize this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to my colleagues. What I'd like to offer today is, I know how joyful fireworks are. I know how important they are, but I also know how dangerous they are. But what I'd like to propose in doing the reading of some of the comments, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, there was a person who was speaking in terms of an educational flyer, and some of the comments that he made, I would like to be added to the educational flyer. And what I'd like to do is to have each vendor would pass out flyers as they sell fireworks. And what they would do is educate the buyer that these are the things that we need to do. Excuse me, that to keep our citizens safe, to keep seniors safe, to just make our city a better place. And I'd like to use this as a test run as to how we handle this situation. And I believe that with education, it would make a difference, and we would not have to ban the fireworks. We would be more safer, and it'd be better. So with that, I'd like to make a motion on the ordinance as amended.
Okay, any discussion?
You have to vote on the
Ma'am?
amendment first.
I'm sorry.
You need to vote on the amendment first.
Yes, sir. That was
Okay.
on the amendment. And then I go to that's what on the amendment number 1 for educational flyer.
All right.
So this is not to stop the use of.
No,
fireworks.
sir. No, sir.
Okay.
No, so this is just to get an educational flyer.
All right.
Okay. Any other discussion on number 1?
Councilwoman Taylor,
Aye.
Councilwoman Fuller,
Aye.
Councilman Nicholson,
Aye.
Councilman Butcher,
Aye.
Councilman Flory,
Aye.
Councilman Green,
Aye.
and Councilman Bowman.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Pass. Now we're going to vote on
So
the,
move,
Amendment-
move on amendment number 2.
Hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry. She got to read it
Okay.
first. I'm sorry.
Oh, yes. We have a second amendment from the administration, and this amendment, it extends the time frame for the sale, discharge, and ignition of an explosion of fireworks within the city limits to include celebrations on June 19th. And it also removes the prohibition on the discharge and ignition of fireworks in residential districts.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may add some remarks to this amendment.
yes, Mayor, you're recognized.
Yeah, so we met with a group of demonstrators today and activists in our community that have been responsible for some of the demonstrations. And they asked if we could put some legislation to expand the time frame you can purchase fireworks so that, you know, members of their movement and others taking place in Juneteenth celebrations. That's the day that African Americans recognize as somewhat of a 4th of July. To allow people to purchase fireworks to celebrate on Juneteenth in addition to July 4th. So that's the reason why we brought forth amendment number 2. And Councilman Green was so gracious to let us attach it.
Okay.
So move on amendment number 2, Mr. Chair.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Councilwoman Taylor. Any discussion? Call for the vote.
Mr. Chairman, if I may briefly, what is the, I mean, if Amendment 2 passes, and I certainly have no opposition to fireworks for Juneteenth, but if Amendment 2 passes, it looks like we'll have a period of, 25 consecutive days from June 10 to July 5th where people can shoot fireworks. And I know that the discussions that I've had with, elderly people and veterans, and pet owners have requested a contraction of the time period that we have fireworks rather than an expansion. And of course, Councilman Green's legislation as initially proposed would have eliminated the use of fireworks in residential neighborhoods. And now we're going to expand the time period. I wonder if we could postpone this so that we can talk about how to accommodate the administration's request to have Juneteenth fireworks, which I fully support, but maybe we could contract the dates around all the holidays so that we're not having 25 consecutive days of fireworks from June 10 through July 5th. That very long period of time concerns me. If I'm reading the amendment right, and I just saw it, today for the first time.
Yeah, the only thing with postponing is that you close the window for people celebrating Juneteenth to purchase fireworks. So how would we amend it exactly? Councilman, did you hear?
No, yes, I heard you. I'm just reading I'm looking over to read the document.
Yeah, we're amenable and flexible. We just, again, we want to support them to be able to use fireworks on that date, just like people are able to use fireworks.
Sure. And I hadn't seen this before today, but I don't have any problem with that. I'm just imagining the calls I'm going to get from people who hear fireworks for 25 days starting June 10, because people aren't just going to pop them for Juneteenth and July 4th. They're going to pop them, some people, for all that time. Could we have a period that starts June 10 and ends June 20 so that people can buy and then we can have a break from fireworks until, say, July 1st or something like that?
That works. I mean, we're okay with that. And I mean, if we're going July 1st to July 4th to give people 3 days to purchase for the celebration for July 4th, we can even close up the window a little bit on this end. Like I said,
I think that'd be great. I've gotten lots of calls over the past 18 months from old people, or elderly people, and veterans who have PTSD. And if what emerges from this legislation is a 25-day period of fireworks, they're going to be understandably upset.
all right. Is there any way we can amend this on the fly? We've done it before. Is there any way we can amend this on the fly to change the dates?
It has to be in writing, so if we can just postpone this until the end of the meeting to give time for somebody to type this up and change it. I don't have the Word version of this, but if somebody can change it before the end of the meeting, we can just postpone it until then.
I have it. I can submit that to the council. I just need to know clarification on what the date gap would be. I heard June 10th to what?
Well, I think the mayor reasonably proposed maybe starting 3 days before Juneteenth. I mean, the exact date doesn't matter, but say June 7 through June. Well, I'm sorry, 3 days prior, so June 16.
Yeah.
Or June 20. And then for 4th of July, whatever it is now, I think it's July 1st through July 5th.
Okay, I'll get that drafted.
Okay, thank you, Mayor, for that accommodation.
Thank you, Councilman.
Okay, Ms. Joy.
And then if you guys just want to postpone this resolution to the end of the meeting, and then we can bring it up again then.
Move
Yes.
to postpone until the end of the meeting.
Second.
I second that. And any discussion? Then please, let's call for the vote.
Councilwoman Taylor,
Aye.
Councilwoman Fuller,
Aye.
Councilman Nicholson,
Aye.
Councilman Butcher,
Aye.
Councilman Flory,
Aye.
Councilman Green,
Aye.
and Councilman Bowman.
Aye.
Let's have it pass. Okay,
Ordinance
Ms.
49 and ordinance,
Goddamn. That works.
you ready? Ordinance 49 and ordinance to close to vehicular through traffic a portion of Montrose Drive between Line Avenue and Dillingham Avenue.
So move.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Let's call for the vote.
Councilwoman Taylor,
Aye.
Councilwoman Fuller,
Aye.
Councilman Nicholson, Councilman Butcher,
Aye.
Councilman Flory,
Aye.
Councilman Green,
Aye.
and Councilman Bowman.
Aye.
Ayes have it. It's approved.
Ordinance 50, amending section 26-30 of the City of Shreveport, Louisiana Code of Ordinances relative to the submission of the annual financial report and to otherwise provide with respect thereto.
I'll make the motion, and after the second request, brief discussion, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All right, I'll second it. Okay, Councilman Green seconds.
Mr. Chairman, it came to our attention, and I've discussed with Ms. Jones, the fact that the city has an ordinance that requires the finance department to submit to the council 3 months after the end of the calendar year financial reports. That has not happened for as long as anybody can remember. We couldn't identify the last time that deadline was met. I've had discussions with our internal auditor, with our external auditor, with Ms. Jones, and we're trying to come up with both a reasonable deadline for those financial reports that is sufficiently before the deadline for the external audit, that they can work with the numbers, and a provision that requires, in the event the deadline is missed for any reason, the finance department to request an extension as it can for the external audit from the state, so that we don't have a law on the books requiring the submission reports that are not getting submitted. So we're not done with that work yet. I'm going to move to postpone now. Well, I just made a motion to adopt, but I'd like to move to postpone so that we can finish those.
Second.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay. Motion and a second to postpone by Councilman Green. Any further discussion? Let's call for the vote on postponement.
Councilwoman Taylor,
Aye.
Councilwoman Fuller,
Aye.
Councilman Nicholson,
Aye.
Councilman Butcher,
Aye.
Councilman Fleury,
Aye.
Councilman Green,
Aye.
and Councilman Bowman.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Passed. Approved to postpone.
Ordinance 51, amending Chapter 50, Article 5 of the State of Shreveport, Louisiana Code of Ordinances relative to the Smoke-Free Air Act and to otherwise provide with respect thereto. And there are two amendments to this ordinance. Amendment number 1 to define terms within the ordinance and provides for revisions to smoking prohibitions and exemptions for the purpose of clarity.
So moved on the amendment 1.
Second.
Motion has been made and a second. Any further discussion? Let's vote on amendment 1.
What does number 1 say
One
again?
say.
What does the
Yes.
amendment? What does the amendment say?
Okay. Ms. Ewan, you have that?
The explanation of the amendment is that it corrects the defined terms within the ordinance and provides for revisions to smoking prohibitions and exemptions for the purpose of clarity. And I believe this one, it removes the exemption for casinos as well as some other changes.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Councilman Green.
I would really like to say at this particular time, with all that's going on in our state, going on in our world, that we would not put a burden on businesses. It doesn't matter if you got a smoke can as a business. I just think at this particular time, it would be prudent for us to hold off on this ordinance and all of the amendments that go along with it, because there are people that, if this possibly happened, you could have 60% of the boat's employees laid off. And I know that as long as you're not laid off, then it doesn't matter where you are, where you work at. But I just think this council, we ought to just hold up on this for a period of time. If we've gone with this for a while with smoking and just a few bars and whatever, I just think that right now, before businesses are damaged anymore. I don't smoke. I just don't. But I don't think that we ought to cripple our businesses right now from Shreveport and then they go somewhere else. As bad as we need tax dollars, we need taxes, we need money over here better than a chicken need buttermilk. And I just think that before we move on this, we need to just say to the general public, give business a chance to have a breather. And then after we get on our feet, it's easy to knock somebody down when they are already down. It's easy to vote on something when it's not going to affect you. But there will be some businesses that would be affected. There would be some people that would be affected. And I just think, and I would just like to recommend, Mr. Chair, Councilman Nicholson and Councilman Butcher and Ms. Fuller, that if we could find it in our hearts to postpone this for another day, another time, I believe that we would help our city. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Vice Chair Fuller, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. There's a 60-day effective date on this, so we would not be looking at this for another 2 months for this to become active. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Any other discussion? Councilman Bowman, did you want to speak?
No.
All right, let's do
Mr. Chair, one other thing.
Yeah,
I know
yes.
it would be 2 months. I know it would be 2 months before this, but it really wouldn't kill us if we waited and did something like this maybe before the end of the year. I just think again that we ought to allow businesses, just because we're not a business person, because we're not in business, I just think that we ought to help our business and be pro-business and help them to get on their feet. Their stores, their businesses closing every day. We got small bars that they got people that go there and smoking just a part of their being. And I hate they smoke because the Surgeon General says a hazard to your health. But that doesn't have anything to do with rice and Russia. I just believe that we ought to give our businesses a chance. Just do something. Over in Boulder, they just growing, they just doing everything. They're just moving. Over here, it seems as though sometimes we're just closing the door, and pushing people to Boulder. So I just like to wait until we could go to Boulder and we could find out, hey, this is what we're doing in Shreveport. Would you all like to join us so that we would have a uniform that one person, just because we did it, our people wouldn't just go across the bridge, across the river. I just think we ought to be prudent and give the people an opportunity to get on our feet. Like I said, I wanted to ban firecrackers, but I heard the voice of the people to say our businesses are going to be messed up. Give us an opportunity. Let us educate the people. And then once we educate the people, let's get a bars a chance to say, hey, look, man, we got this legislation and we're talking about banning smoking in your bar. Why don't you educate the people? See if you could get a little smoke-free zone in your business for a while, and then we're going to come back with this legislation, and then we'll take care of business. I just think, Mr. Chair, and also to the sponsors of the amendment and of the legislation to give our businesses a chance, and I don't think it would kill us. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Vice Chair Fuller.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to point out that right now is our best opportunity to open up with clean air in the midst of everything that has been going on, in particular with respect to COVID-19. This is our best chance to open up with clean air for all of the employees and citizens and taxpayers in our city. And it is up to us to be responsible for being stewards for the people that we represent, not to worry about Bossier. We are responsible for Shreveport. And I think that we've heard from the business owners and from the people today. I read for a good hour, 60 minutes at least, of testimony from our people in this city who are concerned about this and want us to act on this now. We heard from employees from the casinos. We heard from business owners that own bars. We have 75 emails sitting in our emails right now from people that are in favor of this right now. Since most of the people in the entertainment district are in my district, either in Highland or in downtown, who are going to be affected by this, what they have said to me is, we would be happy to be non-smoking, to be smoke-free, clean air in our bars, if we have some time to put our patios together, and also if we are not having to have our business go to the casinos. That has been the cry from the downtown establishments, as well as the local bar owners, the small business owners we're talking about in my district. They do not feel that they should be penalized by losing business to the casinos, whereas if the casinos are brought into this right now, giving clean air to their employees, as well as the bar owners' employees and patrons, that we have a chance for everyone to reopen smoke-free with clean air. It is the best possible choice for the employees we heard from today, like Mr. Desmond Hill, from the emails that I received from people with COPD that are still having to go to their jobs at the casinos, and from the small business owners who don't want to have to compete with the casinos that are going to still be allowed to have smoking if we don't make this comprehensive. We do not need to make two classes of employees, of workers in this community right now. This is our best chance at doing this. Let's do the right thing and let's do it today. If we didn't want to do it right, then the initial legislation should have never been brought forward. If we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Chair.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, and of course, with all fairness, I was a part of the first clean air, but with all fairness, yes, we did hear from the citizens, but also there is a request from the folk that own the boats that would, and I know Councilwoman Fuller, I know this is your district, but they are crying out to meet with you just to hear their side of the story. Here again, I'm not telling you to vote for it. I'm not telling you to vote against it, but I know you. May I finish, please? Listen, may I finish, ma'am? I did
No,
not interrupt you.
my district.
May
And
I
you
finish?
utmost in
Listen
hypocrisy
at this,
for you to tell me
ma'am,
what happened in my district.
ma'am,
Miss
ma'am,
Fuller,
ma'am,
Miss Fuller,
ma'am,
Miss,
ma'am,
Fighting against my district.
please, y'all,
ma'am, let me,
please, order, order,
Utmost in
order. Let's
utmost in disrespect.
order, please.
Mr.
Councilman Green, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, again, I'm not trying to run over anybody's district. In fact, we had a dirt ordinance for 2 years. I did not interrupt you, Councilwoman, when you decided not to listen to me about what was in my district. You decided that you were going to vote against it. I didn't interrupt you. I didn't lose my cool. That was your choice.
My district.
You're interrupting again, madam.
Sorry, Kat.
Here again. You will have a chance. And I know that you've built your people up and all that's well, good, and fine. But I'm talking about a business, and I'm talking about business people. I was ready to ban firecrackers, but I had to listen to the folk that were in business to say, look, man, let us for a minute recover. Let us just recover. And then we'll do education. We got our stock in. We got this in. We got that in. People have, I'm not just talking about small business. I'm talking about large business. They've invested. They've lost money. Everybody have lost money. Not just businesses, churches, everybody have lost money. And so there comes a time when we need to replenish. And so, therefore, I'm just simply asking, once we come to the vote, you can vote any way you want. But everybody on this dais has an opportunity to state their opinion. Mm-hmm. And an expert is only a person that is 50 miles out of town with an opinion. So therefore, as I've respected you, I have not interrupted you. In fact, nobody on this council has interrupted you. So therefore, if we would just respect one another, then it will make a difference. That's my opinion. You don't have to vote with me. You don't have to vote against it. That's your district by choice. You vote out the way you want to. But on the other hand, I don't think you and nobody else has the right to infringe on somebody else because they speak against whatever. That's America. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Any other?
Chair, we can either vote with the people, or we can vote for a special interest. It's that simple. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's call for the vote.
Councilwoman Taylor,
Oh.
Councilwoman Fuller,
Aye.
Councilman Nicholson,
Aye.
Councilman Butcher,
Aye.
Councilman Fleury,
Aye.
Councilman Green,
No.
and Councilman Bowman.
No.
Okay, the ayes have it. It passes. Now, next amendment.
Amendment number 2 adds an additional smoking prohibition to include the property where any hospital, doctor's office, or medical facility is located, up to and including the sidewalks abutting said property.
So
Do I have a
moved.
motion? Councilman Nicholson, do I second?
Well, I did. I'm sorry. I was muted. I motioned, but I can take the second.
Excuse me, Councilman Bowman. I'm trying to take your credit.
No.
Okay, Councilman Bowman, did you want to say anything?
No, I just
Make the motion.
Yeah, well, that's fine. I can take the motion if Councilman Nicholson.
You're going to make the
mind.
motion, Councilman Bowman, and then Nicholson the second, okay? Is that okay? All right. Any discussion? Let's vote.
Councilwoman Taylor,
Aye.
Councilwoman Fuller, Councilwoman Fuller,
She said aye.
Councilman Nicholson,
Aye.
Councilman Butcher,
Aye.
Councilman Fleury,
Aye.
Councilman Green,
No.
and Councilman
Aye.
Bowman.
Aye.
Okay, the ayes have it, it's approved. Next,
So moved
We
as,
did
Need a motion
vote
as
on
amended.
the ordinance as amended.
so moved as amended.
Second.
motion made, second. Any discussion? Let's call for the
Is
vote.
this 53? Are we looking at 53?
51.
51?
51.
I'm sorry, I've moved down the line. Wait, what are we voting on?
Comprehensive.
Original amendment, the original legislation 51.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah,
whenever the ordinance is amended, then you have to vote to adopt the ordinance as amended. And so this
as amended.
is to adopt the
Okay,
ordinance as amended.
okay.
So moved
So
as,
moved by Council Vice Chair, and do I have a second?
Second.
And-
What does the ordinance as amended say?
comprehensive smoking ban with the additional amendment for hospitals.
No. What did we didn't amend the first amendment. We're on number 2. We never did amend.
Yeah, we did.
Mr. Chairman, we've had votes on amendment 1 and 2. Both have passed. I call for the vote on the motion as amended.
Right, Councilman Bowman made the motion on 2, and Councilman Nicholson seconded, Councilman Green on number 2. And it
Okay.
and approved, okay?
Okay,
Okay.
Now we're gonna vote on the original amendment as amended. And I had a motion and a second, and no further discussion. We'll call for the vote.
To adopt.
Councilwoman,
To adopt.
Councilwoman Taylor,
no,
Point of order, Miss.
Yes,
if
Councilman Green.
If we vote yes on this, then that means that this will take place.
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah. And if we vote no, then that means we're not in support of it taking place,
That's
right?
That's correct.
Yes, sir.
That's correct.
All right. Thank you. My vote will still be no.
Okay.
Councilwoman Taylor,
no,
Councilwoman Fuller, Councilman Nicholson,
Aye.
Councilman Butcher,
Aye.
Councilman Fleury,
Aye.
Councilman Green,
No.
and Councilman Bowman.
Oh, God, I want to say no. Aye.
Ayes have it, it's passed, as amended. Okay, Ms. Ewing?
Ordinance 52, zoning case number 20-32-C, an ordinance to amend the official zoning map of the city of Shreveport Unified Development Code by rezoning property located on the west side of Mansfield Road, approximately 137 feet north of DeSoto Street, Shreveport, Caddo Parish, Louisiana, from I-2 Heavy Industrial District to I-1 Light Industrial District.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion made, second. Any discussion? Let's vote.
Councilwoman Taylor,
aye,
Councilwoman Fuller,
Aye.
Councilman Nicholson,
Aye.
Councilman Butcher,
Aye.
Councilman Fleury,
Aye.
Councilman Green,
Aye.
and Councilman Bowman.
Aye.
Ayes have it, it's passed.
Ordinance 53, zoning case number 20-46-C, an ordinance to amend the official zoning map of the city of Shreveport Unified Development Code by rezoning property located on the northeast corner of Line Avenue and Montrose Drive from R17 Single Family Residential District to C-UC Urban Corridor Commercial District.
Move to postpone.
Second.
Motion to postpone and a second. Any other discussion? Let's call for the vote to postpone.
Councilwoman Taylor,
aye,
Councilwoman Fuller. Councilman Nicholson.
Aye.
Councilman Butcher.
Aye.
Councilman Fleury.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
And Councilman Bowman.
Aye.
And the ayes have it. Motion to postpone is approved.
Ordinance 54, zoning case number 20-3-C, an ordinance to amend the official zoning map of the city of Shreveport Unified Development Code by rezoning property located on the south side of North Market Street, approximately 530 feet southeast of Devereaux Road, from R17 Single Family Residential District to R3 Multifamily District and C2 Corridor Commercial District.
I want to move to postpone. How long can I postpone this? Because I have some discussions with the MPC and with the realtor regarding this piece of property.
Councilwoman, according to the rules, the city council must act on the application within 90 days of receipt of the MPC's recommendation, unless the council votes to give an extension.
Which one is this, Councilwoman?
It's 54, but what I'm running into at this particular point in time, I need to have another discussion with MPC and the realtor so we can actually I can get some clarity on the rezoning back of this particular piece of property. And I just want to make sure that we're clear and on one accord. So that's what I wanted to just go and see how much time did I have, because I want to postpone that. I don't want to vote on this as it stands right now, because we're not in agreement on it.
Okay, the chair will second that motion. Any discussion? Let's call.
What's the 90 days? What's the 90? Where we at with the 90 days?
What was the original date?
Yeah.
I would have to defer to either Art or Danielle for the date that it was received by council.
We didn't look that up. I didn't look that up before the meeting. I didn't know that was going to be an issue, but I don't think it's been 90 days. And I think that under the ordinance, even if more time is needed, I think the council can do that.
Mr. Jeans, do you have that information?
You're on mute, Mr. Jeans.
I don't have the date that they received it, and that's what you need.
I can say this, and looking at it, it looks like the meeting was at least on May 6th, the week of May 6th. So clearly council got it thereafter, at some point thereafter. So Woman Taylor, I think you're safe with your 90-day time period. But if at the next meeting, if you're not certain on your position on that, I would suggest that you consider asking for additional time.
Is that satisfactory, Councilwoman Taylor?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So I can move to ask for an additional time on this matter.
Second.
The motion is to postpone.
Yes.
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 And there's no further discussion, then we'll call for the vote.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Taylor.
Aye.
Councilwoman Fuller. Councilman Nicholson.
Aye.
Councilman Butcher.
Aye.
Councilman Fleury.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
And Councilman Bowman.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion to postpone has been approved. Ms. Thompson, is there any? I'm sorry, go ahead.
We can go back to ordinance number 48 at this time, whereas Amendment 1 had already passed, and then the city attorney has provided a supplemental amendment number 2, which you guys should have all received via email at this point. But I will read that since it is not on the agenda. And it changes in the original proposed ordinance and then section 30-91K1 to read as follows. The sale, discharge, ignition, or explosion of fireworks authorized for sale pursuant to RS 51650 through RS 51660 is prohibited in the city limits except for from noon June 16th through 10 p.m. June 20th, and noon July 1st through 10 p.m. July 5th, and noon December 15th through 10 p.m. January 1st of each year. The hours of discharge, ignition, or explosion of lawful fireworks are restricted to those in subsection 2 of the section. And number 2, it deletes and removes section 30-91K3 from the original proposed ordinance, and that was the ban in residential neighborhoods.
So move on to Amendment 2.
I second, but I'll note that what you just read, Ms. Ewing, is what we received by email, but when I pull up the amendment on the agenda that the public has access to, Amendment 2 is not what you just read,
Yes.
so there's a disconnect there. Or
Yes.
that's the old amendment.
That is the original.
Okay. The disconnect is with
That's
me.
the old amendment. This is.
Okay.
And that's why she read it, so that the public would know what the new one is.
Okay, I got it. Thank you very much.
Okay, motion has been made and second. Any discussion? Let's call for the vote.
Councilwoman Taylor,
Aye.
Councilwoman Fuller,
Aye.
Councilman Nicholson,
Aye.
Councilman Butcher,
Aye.
Councilman Fleury,
Aye.
Councilman Green,
Aye.
and Councilman Bowman.
Oh,
Okay, the ayes have it. And now I will vote as amended. Correct?
So move.
Okay. Do I have a,
So move on the ordinance as amended.
do I have a second?
Second.
I'll second it. Any discussion? Let's call for,
One question.
Yeah.
So we will be
Yes, ma'am.
able to, I will be able to light my sparklers.
And Roman candles. And Roman candles.
And Roman
And
candles.
Roman candles. I
Yeah,
will be able to do that.
yeah.
Okay. I don't have to try to beat up my colleague.
No.
All
No.
right.
Councilman Butcher, you'll be able to, what'd you say y'all used to do in Spring Hill?
Oh, we've had bottle rocket wars.
Yeah, we're
We're
gonna
not gonna
have
do
some
that. I don't
bottles rocket.
condone that.
All right.
Okay.
Let's call for the vote as amended.
Councilwoman Taylor,
Aye.
Councilwoman Fuller, Councilman Nicholson,
Aye.
Councilman Butcher,
Aye.
Councilman Fleury,
Aye.
Councilman Green,
Aye.
and Councilman Bowman.
aye.
Ayes have it. It's approved as amended. Okay, that takes care of the legislation, correct? Now, Mr. Thompson, is there any table legislation to be removed from the table today?
I'm not aware of any, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
we also have one appeal on the agenda. I've talked to all of the people involved, including Mr. Butcher, and I believe Mr. Butcher has a motion to postpone that. It's the MP case number 20-2-SC.
Yes, sir. I move to postpone.
I
Second.
second. Who was that second?
That was me.
Okay,
Green.
James. Mr. Councilman Green, okay. Any discussion on the postponement? Let's call for the vote, please.
Councilwoman Taylor,
Aye.
Councilwoman Fuller, Councilman Nicholson,
Aye.
Councilman Butcher,
Aye.
Councilman Fleury,
Aye.
Councilman Green,
Aye.
and Councilman Bowman.
Aye.
Okay, the ayes have it. Motion to postpone has been approved. Thank you very much. Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
in your world over there in the clerk's office, do you have any other appeals that you possibly could be hiding from us today?
None today, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, are there any reports from officers, boards, or committees?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
barring irreconcilable conflict by members of the administration, the Audit and Finance Committee will have a meeting on Tuesday, June 23rd at 1 p.m.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
their clerk's report.
Yes, sir. The mayor has appointed, and it will be up for confirmation at the next meeting, Mr. Grady Morrison to the Shreveport Implementation and Redevelopment Authority Board. And Mr. Morrison has been on the line waiting to be interviewed if anybody wants to ask him any questions.
All right, it's a Mrs.
It's Mrs. Grady Morris.
Is it?
It's okay. It's not the first time.
Well, you know, it's kind of late.
Well, Ms. Martin.
She's a cute. All right, she's a cute Grady though, so it's fine.
She not stepping the stone, Grady.
I apologize profusely.
Well, I apologize not getting you sooner, making you sit this long. I sincerely apologize, and won't happen again. With any questions, Ms. Morrison?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Councilman.
I think since we waited her this long, we ought to suspend all questions.
Yes, I agree with you. Okay. No further questions. Thank you, Ms. Morrison, for being so patient today. Mayor Perkins, do you have any additional communications?
Yes, I do. I think we're close to breaking our record by the way of council meetings. So I want to commend all the council members for being diligent for about 5 hours and working on the city's business. But I do want to make another final note about a lot of topics that's been touched today about police reform.
Yes.
The police reform, we are all about a comprehensive police reform in the city. And that's going to span everything from symbolism to what makes it on our police cars, all the way down to actually training reform. So before close of business tomorrow, there should be a link on the city's website that will show the progress that we're making along various efforts within the city on the progress that we've made. Very substantial changes that are going to be happening from policies, again, to training. And that link will show the meter moving as we implement more and more things and as we continue to listen to various parts of the city. So I don't want anybody listening in today to think that, you know, this stops at, Councilman Green's legislation. He's in constant contact with me, as many other council members are, about various changes. Many people in the community are in constant contact with my office as well. So there will be posted on the city website, and people can track the changes as we're continuing to reform our training, various things with the civil service boards, thing that we're doing with the Commission on Race to view various things in the department. So I just want everybody to know that.
Thank you, Mayor. That is very important, and appreciate you stating that at the end here before we dismiss. Does any council member have any additional?
Mr. Chair?
Yes,
Mr. Chair.
Councilman Green.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask that when situations happen, like it has happened with A.V. Austin and other possible police involved killings in our city, that somebody in your administration would notify us that we wouldn't have to wait until the streets tell us or we see it on the news. I would just like to have full knowledge of it before I get blindsided by the public asking me, what are we going to do? And I have no idea what they're talking about. And also, even though they are the latest, Mr. Austin and Mr. McGlovin and Mr. George Floyd and others, I would just ask that if we would just pause for a few minutes to give honor to them and to their families before we close this meeting. Mr. Chair.
Yes.
For a moment of silence for 60 seconds.
Thank you.
All right.
Councilman Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
The chair.
Yes, Councilwoman Taylor.
In the next council meeting, I'm going to be submitting a resolution that I'm working on, but I do want to make this statement because over the years, we've had much discussion and some actual attempts to increase the level of transparency and accountability for the Shreveport Police Department. And these efforts have come in response to legitimate citizen-driven concerns about the ability of SPD to credibly and effectively police itself and the actions of its officer. And so diminishing community support and confidence to break down the much needed credibility and grassroots partnerships that an effective law enforcement agency must have in order to achieve its #1 objective of public safety for our citizens. It is with this understanding that Shreveport must once again place this issue on the table and first determine and then pursue a path towards a more perfect Shreveport. We must do so in the spirit and the manner of the words spoken by Dr. King in his most famous speech on that day in 1963 before uttering, "I have a dream." Dr. King spoke of a fierce urgency of now. Specifically, he stated, we are faced with the fact that tomorrow is today. We are confronted with the fierce urgency of now. In this unfolding conundrum of life and history, there is such a thing as being too late. This is no time for apathy or complacency. This is a time for vigorous and positive action. So again, it is with this understanding and in this spirit and with the fierce urgency of now that Shreveport must once again place the issues of police transparency, accountability, and reform on the table and welcome all of our citizens to the dialogue. Our process must also be inclusive and coordinated with all levels of government. We should also seek to be embracive of our regional neighbors, since Shreveport is not an island and does not exist in a vacuum. Distilled from this should be a viable path towards the more perfect Shreveport. Of course, we must be committed to resolutely pursuing now. Anything less serves to only further imperil our future. It's quite alarming at the deaths of Mr. McLaughlin and Mr. Austin. Again, I echo the sentiments of Councilman Green to find this out on Facebook. I am remiss just as much as many as our community and reform at this particular point has to begin. But we all know with this civil service process that discussion begins with the state level as well. And so you must take action at this time because we're finding that our police cannot police themselves. So I have a lot of questions at this particular point for Chief Ben Raymond, because I'm wanting to know at this point what has occurred from April 5th to now that we put these officers on leave. I am concerned about the climate of our community at this point, but also let it be known that reform is a must.
Thank you, Councilwoman Taylor. Is there any other council member at this time?
Yes, sir.
Councilman Bowman.
Just wanted to conclude on, thank you, Councilwoman Taylor, first of all.
Welcome.
Just wanted to conclude on that statement that she made. And I know that, Mayor, you asked that, no other comments or whatever, not questions we asked. I couldn't hold all the piece on that because, too many people have asked and I too have those same questions. Is it a coincidence that the officers in question was put on, leave after KSLA presented the video? I mean, is that a coincidence?
Yeah.
And also, because there were some actions, and this is just from what I'm being told, and I just need to know if this is correct. Chief Wolverton was that Station 14 involved also? What exactly was the timeline? Did they come? Did they go? Did they come back twice? And then too, why is the DA stating that documents and things are missing? I mean, that's just something that the people are asking me, and I can't sit here and just shut up and not say nothing without asking those questions, and I won't be doing my job.
Yeah, Council, I want to be factual and say that the officers were placed on leave before that story aired. That's one. What was the second question? That was the second question.
The timeline between from so you're saying it was not a coincidence, and this happened the day before, or the same day and just hours before?
That happened before.
The same day before? The same day?
Yes, that happened before. It was initiated before the same day though. Like you can't do it instantaneous. You gotta go through a procedure. So it was initiated the day before. And as far as the timeline goes, or who was involved, after this is over, and we'll talk about this as soon as the investigation is over. We've already said, actually weeks ago, before that video came out, that we will release every single document available. The video, any public records request, anything at our disposal, we will release it. We will be 100% transparent throughout this. So the rumor mill about there was no investigation that started on April 5th, that's just not true.
No, not that it wasn't an investigation. It just seemed that it was coincidental.
Yeah.
That this just so happened the same day or 24 hours within the same period of the video being released. And that's I think that's the major concern for like 90+% of the people. I could be wrong, but that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm getting. And I too join with them in the same. And is the DA truthful in what he's saying as far as some things being missing? And why, if that's true?
There were documents missing from the initial packet, but we are cooperating 100% with the district attorney, 100%.
So the things that were missed, nothing was not done intentionally. The things that were missed is just so happened to not been into the package, is what I'm saying.
I have no evidence that it was done intentionally. I'm not speaking on that at this point in time. And I mean, Chief Raymond is on this call, but I do know that in other instances, whenever we're exchanging information with the DA's office, it is regular procedure for them to ask for additional documents.
Yeah, and Mayor, if I could, Councilman Bowman, there were no missing documents from the report. We gave the district attorney every document we had. He simply asked for information, additional information. For example, he requested medical records from Oshner's. We did not have medical records as part of our investigation. He requested that we re-interview some witnesses we had already spoken with. We re-interviewed those witnesses. That is a typical process. I can think of numerous investigations, to my knowledge, in which we provided information to the DA, and the DA says, this is great. What about X, Y, and Z? And we go out and assist because it's part of our job to make sure that investigation is brought to prosecution if need be. And so anything the DA asks for, we assist with that. So since that request, we have provided 2 or 3 different items to the district attorney's office.
Mr. Chair?
Yes,
to finish that, so he does have, the DA has everything that he's asked for, in other words.
No, he does not. At least one document required a search warrant, and we're waiting on a hospital to produce those documents. So I don't believe he has everything, but he has, we're facilitating everything he's asked for as quickly as possible. And I believe I'm accurate in saying he has most of the documents that he has since requested.
Right. All right. Well, y'all got to understand, I got people beating my ass up all day about this. And I got to ask these questions because I need to know so they can know. And I know some things we can't tell them because it's under investigation. I get that. But
I'd like to say this, Councilman, and because there is no doubt there is a lot of concern in the community. And absolutely, this was a tragedy. Okay, it was a tragedy for Tom McLaughlin's family. It was a tragedy for the people that called the police to their house because a person broke into their home and their life was in danger. It was a tragedy for police officers that showed up at the scene and had someone die ultimately after having been in our custody. So it's a tragedy on all levels. But the story that was aired is there are inaccuracies in the story that was aired. And I discussed that before the story was aired, that we're putting out a portion of the video. We're putting out a portion and we're putting out a narrated story that the media presented in the manner in which they wished. And there are a lot of inaccuracies. And I look forward to the opportunity to being able to present the entire case folder and all of the evidence and all the videos and all the testimony that we have in our possession. Did I make mistakes in this investigation? Absolutely, I made mistakes. I'll be the first to admit it. I should have put the officers on leave earlier. But again, there's a lot of information I have.
That's it. That's all I want to hear. That's what I want to hear. That's what I need to hear.
If I can please just interject, I realize this is a very.
That's good enough. That's it. That's good enough. That's all I need to hear.
Okay, but excuse me, but the city needs to protect the integrity of the investigation on all levels. So I'm just going to ask us to dial back the questions on specifics. That's all I wanted to say to the council.
And Councilman Bowman, I know you say you're done, and I just want to add this. We are getting beat up in the mayor's office as well. Don't think that you're immune to whatever citizen comments that you're getting, or Councilwoman Taylor, or anybody on this call. I'm sure everybody's heard about it. So, and don't think that there is no sense of urgency on our part. But again, jumping the gun or us being too temperamental with this could, at the end of the day, undermine the outcome. And the outcome, again, as I talked about at the beginning of the meeting, is we want justice to be served across the board. So that's the reason why we are being a bit mum until we can release the documents, which we've said since the beginning that we will release everything that we possibly have.
In the interim, what happens is that with the information coming out the way that it does, Chief, it does not allow for there to be support within the community. And I think that you understand that. And you should understand that when we've had 2 deaths in 60 days and officers that were not immediately put on leave. And then after, I don't know if there was new evidence presented at this particular point in time where they are put on leave, then you have a community trust that is broken. And at this particular point in time, as I said to you all last week, that is a real issue for me. That is a concern for me, the safety of our community. It is very difficult when you have mamas crying or daddies concerned about their sons and what will happen in the engagement there with our police department. And so that's what you hear what you hear around the nation of what is crying out, and then you see that we make national news. So I realize that we have the integrity of the investigation that is going on, and we wait for the outcome with that. My question then becomes, how do we calm the community that we have with citizens calling us, screaming at the top of their lungs, and I understand every emotion and fiber of their being that we have.
And Councilwoman, I can't answer your question. I asked the media not to release the video because I knew this was going to occur, and they released it anyway.
That goes back to the point that, which questions that you cannot answer, Chief, when this occurred back when, it goes back to what Councilman Green says, that if you have something of this particular magnitude, then you share it at the beginning to get on top of it. And I think that's where you see a huge mistake there. So we can say what the media released at this particular point, but it was already here.
I'll jump in, and Makisha, you can correct me in this. Councilman Green and Councilwoman Taylor, we can set up protocols If there's an officer involved shooting, clearly there are protocols. We can set up protocols for various incidents that occur with SPD that we can immediately share with council. Obviously, what we share is going to be confidential or is going to be constrained by what the Louisiana law says, but we can definitely share, set up protocols to where if an event takes place, we'd be happy to share it with you.
Thank you, Mr.
Councilman, Councilman Green, you're recognized.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to ask a question. One, if you would be the point person on notifying each council member, or will you have someone to do it?
It'll come from myself or Chief Whitehorn.
Okay, and like I say, as to what everybody else was saying, in my district, people are still crying about Alvin Childs, and they still hurting. Anthony Child, I'm sorry. And after this, then it just starts to wound all back over. And here again, Mr. Mayor and Chief, I'd just like to urge you all. I know I've had people today, and this is one of the longest meetings we've ever been. But I do believe from the depths of my heart that consciousness will make a difference. I know that they beat me up on Facebook about a sticker on a car, but that was not what my legislation was about. In fact, the sticker part was all the way down at the bottom, but sometimes people are guilty of always trying to find something wrong, and they fail to find something right. And then people try to be so big-minded that eating is eating them up. And basically what we have to do is respect one another and respect these families, because when I think about these men, or when I think about these ladies, I think about I got some sons and I got some grandsons. And when I tell y'all about having a consciousness, when I tell y'all about coming in the black community, they tell me when the officer stops them, they get out of the car with their hand on their gun. And I don't have to take their word. Whenever I've been stopped, the first thing an officer will do is get out of his car, slide down the side of my truck with his hand on his pistol. And because I have dark windows and because my truck got red wheels and red stripes, apparently I meet the profile. They want to know if, in fact, I can let my back windows down. Well, my truck is so old, I can't let it down, but I can open the door and let them look in there to make sure nobody's in there. I just wish the people that are talking and making fun of this and I wish they could just ride in my shoes for one day and just be black, be a black man, be a black person in America, and you'll understand how life is. When I drive up to a stop sign, up to a red light, if a police come up beside me, I got to check to see if I got my music right. I got to check to see about my insurance. If I get stopped, I got to put my hand out of the window. Before the officer get up, I got to show him that I have no weapons. Just live one day in my shoes as a black man, as a black woman, as a black boy, as a black girl. And it will make a difference as a consciousness. That's all I'm bringing. To add on there that we protect and serve all citizens, that when you come in my neighborhood, it's not coming to a war zone, and I'm prepared to do whatever it takes to win the war. We've just got to have the respect for the people that we serve, and we got to serve all citizens. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and that's it for me.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Councilman Butcher, you're recognized.
Wow.
I have a question. Back last spring, after the Mr. Childs incident, I think myself and it may have been you and Councilman Nicholson requested that if there was any officer involved, injury or death to a citizen, that either the state police or the sheriff's office investigate that. Mayor, I know we've got some things coming down the pike that you're going to be looking into. Is that something that we could actually get going fairly soon?
Yeah, this is like I said, we've asked the state police to be an additional oversight committee for us right now. So, and this is an in custody thing. Like I said, we need to set up protocols throughout. The only time that there's been in custody deaths have happened in that small window since I've been in office. So we're gotta set up protocols to continue. So yes, we've asked external agencies to review this as well.
I just think that, and not to interrupt you, but I just think that would be a big step. It's not that I don't have faith in the capability of the police department, but I think to a certain extent, it's almost like you're investigating one of your own. And I just think that it would probably be a good idea in the environment that we are right now, and with things that have gone on, especially with this particular case, if we could start asking the police department anytime there's the state police, anytime there's something that is pertaining to an officer at the Shreveport Police Department, that they do the investigation. So that's my 2 cents worth. Thank you.
Okay. Any other?
Chair?
Yes, Vice Chair.
I was trying to get your attention earlier before the moment passed. I just wanted to co-sign on to what Councilwoman Taylor was saying about the importance of keeping those channels of communication open and how important it is for us to know things, even the slightest amount, confidentially about what's going on, so that when these things are coming up, there aren't those surprises. And I think that it does give the community a lot more confidence in us working together when we actually can say unequivocally that we do know that something is going on. That's all. Thank you.
Okay. Well, if there's no other councilman, yes, Councilman Green.
Councilman Bowman.
Yes, I just wanted to.
Is Councilman Bowman still here?
Yeah.
Councilman Bowman, it's too late for me to cook. Would you take me to eat somewhere?
I'll come pick you up. Come and get you. I did want to just apologize to Attorney Creel for cutting off when I was speaking earlier. I apologize for doing so.
All right.
Well, in the spirit of us being so nice, I want to apologize to Councilman Green for getting in my feelings and interrupting him earlier. That was not ladylike. I apologize.
Well, Councilwoman, I know you love me, so I know periodically, you'll do it, but I know it's out of love, so we good.
It just took her a minute to recognize you was a cat and not the kitten.
I heard her say it. I heard her say it under breath. I heard her say, that blank cat go again.
You're gonna get a nickname later, Councilman Bowman.
Chairman,
I'm gonna take you to get a pizza when all this stuff over.
I look forward to it.
Mr.
All
Chairman,
right.
I tell people that being on the city council is like having 6 siblings that you didn't have before, and every time we get together, I realize how much more true that is.
Yes, indeed.
You still telling the truth.
Yeah. Thank you all. It's been a long meeting, and
Yes.
thank you all for being patient and understanding, and the Vice Chair for the great job that you did on the comments.
Yes,
And
that's a
Chairman,
lot of
Chairman,
reading.
Chairman.
Y'all
That's a lot of
meet
reading.
me over at the old Morrison over there. I'll buy y'all something to eat.
Chairman, thank you for this long meeting, and it was great to see you back in the chairman chair, and I'm glad to see you looking so good and sounding so good. So thank
Yes,
you.
sir. You sound strong.
Thank you very
Y'all
much.
meet me at the old Morrison about 9:30.
Nobody's trying to meet you.
Hey, that close. No other, the meeting